The attorneys of Barry Bonds filed a motion that prohibited his mistress from testifying about the size of his testicles and scrotum during trial. Alex Rodriguez's ex told US Weekly that he had two paintings of him as a centaur, half man, half horse, hanging over his bed. Jose Canseco's ex wrote a book that says he would stare at himself in the mirror during sex, and Jose Canseco wrote a book that says his ex cheated on him with Alex Rodriguez.
Nobody cares about you either, fat ass. You got no balls, that's what you're gonna say to my face. Typical human feces. No balls.
Decades after going to 3 straight World Series and becoming one of the most iconic duos in baseball history, Canseco wrote a poem to Mark McGwire, went to a game to read it to him in person in order to apologize. Mark McGwire said he would never speak to Jose Canseco again.
But I find myself angry in my gut, because these are the same guys who would have taken me out, not because they had more God-given natural talent than me, but because they enhanced with artificial means.
Curt Schilling, described as a blowhard, the worst teammate in baseball history, was accused of painting his sock red during a playoff game.
How many times have you looked at a young man and said, wow, he's a beautiful young man. Wow, he's a gorgeous young man. And that man was 12, 13, 14, 15.
I'll be honest,
or he's a beautiful...
Kurt,
yeah.
I've never
that's a lot.
Sammy Sosa was accused of trying to turn himself into a white man. And Rafael Palmeiro got paid $2 million to say that he took Viagra.
Never like to boast about being in a spot where I'm at, because boom, you get knocked down. This game is very humbling, so I just try and roll with the punches and stay low key. And then when somebody says, hey, MVP, it's like, no, don't say that anymore,
6 years ago, Curt Schilling told the media, "Baseball, as I knew it growing up, is gone." A journalist wrote that baseball was, quote, on a course of self-destruction. Another wrote that the institution of baseball was dying, and another declared the sport, quote, destroyed over money. Since then, attendance is up 44%. League revenue is up 115%, and MLB just had its highest attended season in history. 10 years ago, there were 5 MLB players who weighed 240 pounds or more. That number has increased 840%. There were more home runs hit this year than any other year in MLB history. That record's been broken 4 times in the past 5 years. There were 2,376 more home runs hit this season than there were 10 years ago. 12 years ago, 1 player hit more than 40 home runs. Now, there are 16 players with over 40 home runs. Mark McGwire hit 70 home runs and still didn't win MVP. A baseball player has won Male Athlete of the Year 4 of the last 6 seasons. Sammy Sosa has his own cereal. Cal Ripken Jr. has his own cereal. Derek Jeter has his own cereal. Barry Bonds has his own cereal, but his was the only one not to sell. Alex Rodriguez just signed a $252 million contract, the biggest contract in sports history, $126 million more than the second biggest contract in sports history. Rafael Palmeiro got $50 million and turned it down, and Major League Baseball just signed a new $2.5 billion TV contract. They are now making $570 million a year from TV, a 50% increase from the 5 seasons prior. MLB just had their highest revenue season in history. Mike Lupica just wrote that the sport had, quote, reclaimed America. According to Bud Selig, the game had never been more popular in history due to a great renaissance that will lead to the greatest golden era in baseball history. And Rob Manfred just said, quote, we are clearly interested in getting some sort of steroid testing program in place.
Saunders is hurt. A wild pitch because something in his arm snapped. Saunders down on the field writhing in pain. That ball flew out of his hand.
In the early 1900s, horse racing officials would take the saliva of a horse, inject it into a frog. If the frog died on the spot, they would rule that horse a drug cheat. This PED testing happened over 100 years before MLB began testing. Animal racing sports were the first sports to even consider drug use cheating. Iconic cyclist Major Taylor took so much nitroglycerin before a race, he began hallucinating, had to drop out of the race because he believed a man was chasing him around the track with a knife, and was not punished afterwards. Less than a decade later, in the same state, a man was given a lifetime ban for giving a horse cocaine before a race. By the early 1900s, newspapers began reporting on trainers giving their horses cocaine, whiskey, and even shocking them with electronic buzzers, all in order to make them go faster, and even sometimes gave their horses opioids to purposely make them lose. The public being aware of this widespread cheating created an existential crisis in the sport. If people couldn't trust the results were fair, they would not bet on it. If they couldn't bet on it, they'd have no reason to watch it. So in order to save the sport and ensure the public that the results were fair, horse racing, shortly followed by greyhound racing, implemented mandatory drug testing. Decades before any human athlete was tested for PEDs. Doping is unique in these sports because instead of being used solely to improve performance, it's used to also decrease performance and directly manipulate the outcome of the race for betting reasons. Some will purposely give their horses morphine, making them slow. After losing a series of races, their betting odds will get extremely low. Then make a big bet on their horse, give that horse cocaine, and take advantage of the low odds they had initially manipulated. A man was charged with animal cruelty after being accused of rubbing a concoction of cayenne pepper on his horse's rectum and genital area. That horse won 14 races in a row. 24 men were arrested for feeding their horses Viagra during illegal races in Italy. One man got a 4-month ban for giving his greyhound codeine. Another man was caught mixing cannabis in his dog's food. Greyhounds have tested positive for birth control. A greyhound has tested positive for pig sedative. Dogs have been caught using EPO. One dog tested positive for steroids 5 times in 2 months. In 2025, 26 different greyhounds tested positive for cocaine. In fact, from 1998 to 2018, 230 greyhounds tested positive for cocaine in Florida alone. As a result, Florida banned greyhound racing. The amount of licensed tracks in America have gone from 60 to now only being 2, as the sport is currently on the brink of extinction. And it wasn't that long ago that baseball, too, was on the brink of extinction.
Sorry to keep you here so long tonight. I had hoped that tonight I would be coming out to tell you that baseball was coming back in 1995. And for a good while this evening, I thought that that might well be the case. Unfortunately, the parties have not reached agreement. The American people are the real losers.
In 1989, the Oakland Athletics were at the pinnacle of baseball. Their star player was a man named Jose Canseco. They're on the path to their second straight World Series appearance, and every time Canseco comes to the plate, the crowd chants steroids. Jose Canseco responds.
Canseco bids for the second homer of the inning. If it's fair, he's got it.
Whoa.
And it settles into the upper deck.
Oh my goodness. A 480-foot bomb into the 5th deck at the Sky Dome. The A's would go on to their second straight World Series, and they won it. The Bash Brothers' legacy is cemented. McGwire and Canseco's star power only grows, and the Athletics become baseball's biggest juggernaut. They won 100-plus games again, win their division for the 3rd straight year, and on their way to their 3rd straight World Series. But to get there, they have to face another up-and-coming superstar, Roger Clemens. According to an unnamed team employee, he'd been boiling over. He had a sign in his locker that said, "Possessed Rebel." Over the last couple months of the season, he had injured his own hand slamming a door in a tantrum. He had angrily thrown a ball into the stands during warm-ups. He had shoved a photographer and told a recovering alcoholic teammate, quote, "Drink a beer like a real man. Not any more of that milk." The Red Sox lost the first 3 games of the series. On the brink of elimination, Clemens was tired of losing. And on 3 days rest, he is adamant he pitches Game 4. Before the game, he gets all his teammates, including himself, to wear eye black.
Day, you don't often see pitchers wearing that eye black underneath their eye.
And planned out a different celebration for each strikeout he would get. Roger Clemens got 0 strikeouts. After this pitch to Mark McGwire, he looks upset. McGwire ends up hitting in a run. The next batter watches a few questionable calls. Clemens walks the batter and starts yelling at the umpire. And in the second game of a playoff start, he gets ejected. The manager loses it. The Red Sox throw coolers onto the field. More things are thrown on the field. The Red Sox start pushing each other in the dugout, and Clemens loses it on the umpire for 5 straight minutes, at one point shoving an umpire to the side, and reportedly told the umpire he was going to find out where he lived. This earned Clemens a 5-game suspension and a $10,000 fine. The Red Sox would lose their 10th straight playoff game, got swept again, and were eliminated. The Athletics would make it to the World Series for the third straight year, but they would face a similar fate. Jose Canseco entered the series with a nagging back and hand injury. In Game 2, the Reds' leadoff batter hits one to Jose. He can't get to it.
Canseco gets a bad jump on the ball. Didn't appear that he saw it well.
These two teams go back and forth all game, and the A's take a one-run lead into the 8th. Another ball is hit to right field. Canseco can't get to it. This run ends up scoring. The Reds end up sending it 2 extra innings and win on a walk-off. After the game, Jose Canseco's manager, Tony La Russa, tells the media, quote, "That's a play you've got to make," saying he thought Canseco was in good enough shape to play, but may be wrong. In Game 3, Canseco goes 0 for 4. After their third straight loss, manager Tony La Russa decides to bench Canseco for Game 4, citing injury. This decision causes Canseco's wife to publicly call out the manager, saying, quote, "He's a punk. Tony's going too far. He's trying to place all the blame on Canseco. Let them sweep us."
She looks so cute. Is that the lady that called your coach a punk?
Actually, she called him something worse, but we won't discuss it.
The Reds win Game 4 and sweep the Athletics. Some people in Oakland are beginning to turn on Canseco.
It seems like to me I can do no right from now on in for the fans of Oakland. I think the expectations are extremely high. The shoes are too big for me to fill. And, I've been considering going somewhere else.
His speeding tickets and arrests had gotten a lot of press. He started a toll-free Canseco number where you could ask him about that night's game, guns, and steroids. He was photographed coming out of Madonna's house at 1 a.m. in New York City.
But now Jose's wife doesn't know about this.
Well, she does now.
Pictured with the biggest pop star on earth at the time, Canseco's celebrity status now transcended baseball, and so did the hate. This news became so big, fans came to Yankee Stadium just to torture him. During that game in New York, he was booed relentlessly. People threw baseballs, radios, a camera, even a cabbage on the field. Somebody threw a life-size inflatable Madonna doll, which forced the game to be stopped. His manager and teammates later had to charge out of the dugout and restrain Canseco to stop him from fighting a fan who was heckling him about Madonna.
Especially now when my wife is having trouble at Oakland. She hasn't gone to some of the games because of this problem.
In '91, he wasn't voted by fans as an All-Star. His own manager, who was also managing the All-Star team, had the power to add him to the team as a reserve. He decided not to. Jose Canseco wasn't selected as an All-Star while leading the league in homers.
I think the fact that the fans think I'm making too much money, and I wonder if maybe the fans really don't want me to play in Oakland anymore.
This started rumblings that Canseco and the A's relationship was crumbling. Canseco is getting booed by his own fans. However, he's helped the A's to their 3 highest attended seasons ever. He helped them to 3 World Series, and now a 4th looked very possible. Halfway through the year, they had the best record in baseball, and once again, Canseco is an All-Star. Then the A's did something that shocked everyone.
An early pinch hitter. Obviously something is wrong with Jose Canseco. They didn't trade Canseco, did they?
Folks, it has just been announced a major, and I mean major, blockbuster deal. I hope this isn't April 1st, is it?
Sit down, people. We sent Jose Canseco to the Rangers and acquired Ruben Sierra, Jeff Russell, Bobby Witt, and cash.
While having the best record in baseball, the A's traded their best player. Canseco, shocked, tells the media, quote, "I don't know what really happened. Maybe I'll never know the reason I was traded. I still can't believe all of this happened. I can't believe it happened this way. I'm hurt." The A's decided they'd be better off with just one Bash brother. He'd been more durable, more lovable, and was controversy-free. They sent Canseco to Texas, but he would never forget this. Canseco's new team had 3 up-and-coming stars. A player named Juan Gonzalez. In 1992, a piece on Gonzalez says he showed up to camp with nearly 20 pounds of extra upper body bulk. He hit a career-high 46 home runs. They had Ivan Rodriguez. He gets called up the day he's supposed to get married. Ended up having to get married at Driller Stadium, home of the Tulsa Drillers, then went to the majors and threw 2 runners out that night. As the youngest player in the AL, he becomes an All-Star and wins a Gold Glove. They also have Rafael Palmeiro. Growing up in Miami, Canseco and Palmeiro knew each other as kids. Now they're on the same team. He was expected to bring power to Chicago, but underperformed his first 2 seasons and was traded. Palmeiro thought he'd be a Cub for life and was devastated. In 1991, he showed up to camp 10 pounds heavier and became an all-star. The Rangers struggled and finished 4th, but they were good in one statistic: homers. They finished 4th in MLB, and this young core would have been even better if it wasn't for one mistake. A mistake that in 2000, their owner, George W. Bush, said, quote, was the biggest mistake of his adult life. Sammy Sosa grew up sleeping on dirt floors in the Dominican Republic. One scout described him as, quote, malnourished. 4 years later, he was in the major leagues. After his first season, he comes home with $40,000. He spreads it across his bed and has his family jump into it. The Rangers trade him at just 20 years old. He goes to the White Sox, where an unnamed teammate calls him uncoachable. The first thing Sosa is quoted saying in '91 is, "I didn't hit anyone with a bottle, I swear to God," referring to a claim his estranged wife made in the Dominican Republic. Sosa was cleared in court, but that year, he's the 6th worst hitter in baseball by OPS and is traded for a second time at just 22 years old. The Chicago Tribune says Sosa has been described as a head case. As he left the White Sox clubhouse, he reportedly told his teammates, "Okay, boys, I'm out of here. You guys will see me again. I'm going to be the best player in this game." Meanwhile, in Pittsburgh,
now don't fuck with me. I'm not fucking with nobody. Don't fuck with me, no.
Barry Bonds has emerged as the best player in baseball.
Get it out of my face. Get that game out.
He leads the league in OPS 3 years in a row.
You don't tell who the f*** in my face. All right? You don't say it. I say it.
He leads the league in WAR 3 years in a row.
I've had enough of this fucking shit. I'm in it because I'm the fucking manager of this fucking team. That's why I'm in it.
He wins 3 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Sluggers, and misses out on his 3rd MVP in a row by a few votes.
Everybody knows you're pissed off. So let's get the fucking shit over with right fucking now. I don't want to see no more or go home.
Bonds changes the course of the franchise. Not only do they make the playoffs for the first time in a decade, they make 3 straight championship series, but he struggles. 1 game away from the World Series, the Pirates fall short. The very next year, they are 3 outs away from going to the World Series. Up 2 in the 9th, the Pirates get in trouble. The winning run is in scoring position, but they need just 1 more out to win. Francisco Cabrera lines one to Barry Bonds. He charges and makes the throw home, but it's offline. The Pirates, 1 win away from a World Series, get eliminated for the 2nd straight year. Bonds' teammate blames him. He says before the play, he told Bonds to play more shallow. Bonds looked at him and gave him the middle finger. The ball came to Bonds, and the runner was safe by an inch. According to Andy Van Slyke, if Bonds would have listened to him and played more shallow, the Pirates could be in the World Series. Bonds just had the 3 best Pirates seasons in nearly 100 years, yet newspapers in Pittsburgh says his stock is at an all-time low. Bonds then signs the biggest contract in baseball history, going to the San Francisco Giants. According to newspaper accounts, the Pirates practically threw a parade when he left. The year before, 1991, MLB had officially added steroids to the banned substance list. Writer Bob Nightingale wrote about the increase in injuries across MLB, saying there was a belief that amphetamines were re-entering baseball and that steroids have a foot in the door. One anonymous manager said he knows of a couple teams that are into steroids, but doesn't think they're a huge problem yet, adding that we'll never really know without testing. According to Lenny Dykstra, he ended 1989 at 150 pounds. He entered spring training in 1990, 40 pounds heavier. He became a first-time All-Star, was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and hit 400 in June. He says he was almost out of the league in 1989. In 1991, he signed the biggest contract in Phillies history. He says being a millionaire would have been impossible without steroids. He led the Phillies to a World Series in 1993 and says that also would have been impossible without steroids. In 1991, he got into a car accident while drunk, woke up in the middle of the road, punctured his lung, bruised his heart, and survived. He also thinks this may have been impossible without steroids, saying, in a way, steroids saved my life that night. In 1993, he was in the World Series for the first time since 1986. Then, he was splitting time in the outfield. Now, he was the best player on the team. In Game 2, the Phillies bring in closer Mitch Williams as he tries to hold on to the lead. Curt Schilling is seen in the dugout, unable to watch, with a towel over his head. Williams gets out of 2 jams and narrowly escapes disaster. Later, Schilling shows up to the stadium with a button on his hat that says, quote, "I survived watching Mitch Williams pitch in the 1993 World Series." A few days later, the Phillies bring in Williams again with a 4-run lead. Once again, Curt Schilling is in the dugout with a towel over his head, unable to watch. His teammate Larry Anderson called it one of the worst things I've ever seen in baseball, saying that it bothered everybody. Another player on the team called Schilling the worst teammate he ever had. Another teammate said Schilling was full of crap and did this for one reason, to get all the cameras pointed at him. Mitch Williams would go on to allow 4 of the next 5 batters to get on, gives up 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and blows the game. By the time he got home, he had gotten so many death threats that a police officer was already there guarding his house. Williams says fans went to his house, took threatening photos in front of his house, then left them in the mailbox, saying that he didn't get a minute of sleep as he spent the night pacing around his home holding a gun. Less than 48 hours later, he was pitching again. Entered in the bottom of the 9th, up by 1, needing just 3 more outs to force a Game 7. Mitch Williams went on to give up 2 hits, then a game-winning home run to Joe Carter. According to WPA, Williams alone lowered the Phillies' odds to win by 53%, the costliest performance in World Series history. Months later, he was traded and said despite the animosity from fans, he loved the city, loved the fans, loved the franchise, and all his teammates, except for one guy, Curt Schilling. Schilling would spend much of the next season hurt, and so did the sport. 1993 was the second least watched World Series ever. Storied franchises like the Oakland Athletics were hurting. A year after trading Canseco, they finished 30 games under 500. In the past 2 years, Mark McGwire had played in just 74 games and only hit 9 home runs. In 1994, he got hurt again, and before he could come back, the season stops. The players go on strike, and the sport, now more than ever, is pronounced completely dead. Infielder Mike Gallego went to go work at Kmart. Ranger Jeff Fry went to be a greeter at Walmart. And according to his brother, Mark McGwire went home and began using anabolic steroids. But McGwire was far from the first. Pitcher Jim Galvin threw a 2-hit shutout, then told the newspaper he injected himself with ground-up testicle extracts from dogs and guinea pigs mixed with blood. Galvin was later inducted into the Hall of Fame. At this time, if humans, not dogs or horses, were the ones taking the drugs, the public did not care. The New York Giants had a doctor travel with the team to give players elixirs with extracts of mashed up ox brain. In the 1800s, Jem Mace, bare-knuckle boxing champion of the world, would drink brandy in between rounds. Drinking cocaine and opioid-infused serums during fights were also common during this time. In 1904, an Olympic marathon runner ingested a mixture of strychnine, brandy, and water from a car radiator to enhance his energy and focus. Ended up collapsing, got first place anyway, and was awarded an Olympic gold medal. In 1923, Henri Pellissier won the Tour de France, then later showed a journalist 2 vials of cocaine, chloroform, and 3 boxes of pills he said were necessary to get through a race. Even the most famous athlete of them all,
the one and only Babe Ruth,
once collapsed on a train and had to get surgery that required him to miss 2 months.
I want a rabbit.
You want a rabbit?
Yeah.
According to reports at the time, he ate 12 hot dogs that day, which caused the illness.
Oh, now, how can I get a rabbit?
This was likely a cover-up story.
Well, I don't know about a rabbit, but I'll see if I can get a rabbit for you later.
Some have theorized the illness was really caused by an STD.
One of these nights you choose, I'll simply get a rabbit for you.
While others think he fell ill after injecting himself with extracts made from sheep testicles.
I want to take this opportunity to wish all the children a very Merry Christmas.
If this is true, Babe wouldn't be the first one to make up a fake injury. In the mid-2000s, it was widely reported that Joel Zumaya had to miss the postseason because he hurt his wrist playing too much Guitar Hero. Later saying this story was made up by the team, while also not being willing to say the real reason for the injury. It was reported that Carlos Zambrano's injured elbow was in part due to him emailing his brother, which he reportedly did 4 hours a day. Jose Cardinal once had to miss a game because there were crickets in his hotel room. He could not fall asleep and was too tired to play the next day. Glenn Allen Hill, who had a fear of spiders, once had a bad dream about spiders, jumped out of bed into another room, and crashed through a glass table. The next day, he was placed on the 15-day DL. Then you have Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Sosa's back-to-back sneezes will likely land him on the DL with a sprained ligament in his back. He was scheduled to get an epidural Tuesday night to calm down the inflammation. Epidural, that's what they give women in labor.
Injured after a sneeze and missed over a month of games. We can't know for sure if these stories were real or were actually hiding something else. And we'll never know for sure if Babe Ruth injected himself with sheep testicle to increase strength, but we do know that these extracts were popular at the time. Inspired by a revolutionary scientist named Charles Brown Sequard, a man who once swallowed the vomit of one of his patients just so he could get the same disease they had because he wanted to experiment on himself. He had a theory and famously tested it by injecting himself with semen, blood, and juice extracted from crushed up dog and guinea pig testicles. After the injection, he noticed that he had an increase in energy, the ability to lift 15 pounds more, and a stronger urine stream. This made papers across the world, and according to some, birthed modern endocrinology. The synthetic testosterone, HGH, and steroids athletes inject today are only possible because of this insane experiment done in 1889. Businessmen began bottling up crushed testicles and selling them to patients. Regular people and athletes began taking it. However, later tests show that the amount of testosterone in these were so low, the only effect would be strictly placebo. So with no chemical boost, Babe Ruth became one of the 100 most significant Americans in history, according to the Smithsonian, the greatest athlete of all time, according to the LA Times, and the most recognizable athlete in the history of the world, according to the Associated Press, just for playing baseball, a sport that when he was beginning his career, believe it or not, was dying.
Found guilty of conspiracy to fix World Series are 8 of White Sox team. Something wasn't right, and thousands mourned the proof that baseball wasn't fully honest.
In 1919, the World Series was fixed. White Sox players were paid money to lose on purpose. People inside the sport knew it was fixed. A reporter warned people it was fixed. A lot of suspicious things happened in the series that made it seem fixed. The league ignored it. The White Sox lost on purpose. It got exposed. The federal government got involved, and the entire world saw how corrupt baseball was. Consider the darkest moment in baseball history. So desperate, the league created a new job called commissioner, appointed one of the sternest judges in the country, and he banned more players than any commissioner in history, 18 in total, desperately trying to regain the public's trust, who now saw the sport similar to horse racing, a crooked, corrupt business ran by gamblers, enjoyed by degenerates, but completely written off by the average American. The next year, 500,000 less people went to baseball games. Then Babe Ruth went to the Yankees and hit 29 home runs. The next year, he hit 54. Then he hit 59. Not a single AL team hit more home runs than Babe Ruth hit alone in 1920. He hit so many home runs, nobody cared about gambling anymore. In his first season as a Yankee, their attendance doubled. Within 4 years, MLB set an attendance record, and Babe Ruth was the largest athlete in the world. Supposedly, he drank a pint of whiskey, ate a steak, 4 eggs, fried potatoes, and a pot of coffee for breakfast, followed by an afternoon snack of 4 hot dogs and 4 Cokes, a dinner of 2 porterhouse steaks, another snack of 4 more hot dogs and 4 more Cokes, then finally another dinner of 2 more porterhouse steaks. In 1927, he broke his own record for the 4th time. On the very last day of the season, he hit his 60th home run, a threshold that seemed impossible. Branch Rickey called this the peak of baseball interest in the 1920s. When he died, an estimated 100,000 people came to see his casket. All the obituaries said the same thing. The Associated Press said he made fans forget about the crookedness of 1919. The Virginia Pilot gave him more credit than the commissioner for saving baseball. The Brooklyn Eagle wrote that anyone with common sense knows the Babe saved baseball from the Black Sox scandal. And 13 years later, another man came around. And according to those same writers, this man was trying to ruin baseball. With the deadliest war in human history over, countries had to find a new way to fight each other. Simultaneously, Roger Maris has entered the league, and another revolution is taking place.
Hi. Baseball players and other athletes know all about backaches. And aren't backaches miserable, keeping you awake nights and all? Try Doan's pills. Doan's often bring relief from those nagging backaches and let you get a good night's sleep and wake up feeling great.
After Brown-Sequard's testicle extract injections, a man named Eugene Steinbeck cut off the testicles of animals. The animals became lazy, and now scientists were confident that testosterone, made in the testicles, was the hormone responsible for strength, energy, and aggression, causing a man to invent a surgery that transplanted monkey testicle tissue into the scrotum of men. He then began transplanting the testicles of executed criminals into patients. So many people wanted this procedure done due to shortness of supply, he had to go back to using monkey testicles. In the late 1930s, an entire English soccer team was forced by their coach to do a method like this. They finished second in the FA Cup. This procedure, however, was deemed pointless and obsolete when two German scientists were finally able to isolate the hormone testosterone. They won a Nobel Prize. Holocaust victims were injected with it so they could regain strength. Cancer patients were injected with it to regain weight, and the Soviet Union injected their weightlifters with it. In 1956, they won 3 Olympic gold medals and set 16 world records. That same year, a pharmaceutical lab took testosterone and chemically modified it to create the anabolic steroid Dianabol. 66 years later, 2 Chinese swimmers tested positive for it. The Chinese say it got in their system by accident after they ate too many contaminated hamburgers. This excuse was accepted, and they were allowed to compete in the 2024 Olympics. In 1961, a pharmaceutical company created Turinabol. Over 50 years later, anti-doping agents went into an MMA gym to test John Jones. He hid under the cage at the gym. The agents were told he wasn't at the gym, but waited for him for 6 to 8 hours, hoping he'd arrive. John Jones hid underneath the cage for 6 to 8 hours to avoid the test, likely peeing underneath the cage during that time. Several years later, he tested positive for Turinabol. In 1962, a pharmaceutical company created Winstrol, the same drug Barry Bonds was accused of taking 45 years later. In 1963, Trenbolone was created, the same drug Max Kepler was suspended for last month. At the time of their creation, they were given to cancer patients to make them stronger, given to kids who were abnormally short to help them grow, and were even tested on, quote, mongoloid children. They put advertisements for Decadurabolin in newspapers, and they were available for consumption with a prescription from a doctor. The entire 1960 United States weightlifting team had a prescription. Their coach was giving them 10 milligrams of Dianabol a day, 1/7 of the dose Mark McGwire took, according to his brother. They added 100 pounds to their 3-lift max in just 2 months. But MLB players were oblivious to the scientific revolution. The league had reached the pinnacle of popularity in America, and thanks to Babe Ruth, players now enjoyed a celebrity status never seen before in American sports.
Hey, you're Roger Maris! Roger Maris? In person?
Sure. I wanted to see what I looked like on the post trading cards. And kids, I think they're great.
Roger Maris was a 3-time All-Star, won a Gold Glove, was just crowned the MVP at 25 years old, led the Yankees to the most-watched World Series of all time, and in 1961 was threatening to break Babe Ruth's single-season home run record, becoming one of the biggest stories in America, but had to travel with the New York City Police Department because he was getting so many death threats. Writers had called Maris's attempt to break Ruth's record, quote, the great mistake. With a month left to play, he began getting booed. Writers asked Maris if he had cheated on his wife on the road. They made up a story that he and his teammate Mickey Mantle had a feud and declared the record unbroken, with still 9 more games left to play. But on the final day of the regular season, Maris broke Babe Ruth's record. Then, a campaign was started to not count the record, since it took him 163 games instead of the 164 that it took Babe Ruth. Even the commissioner of baseball wanted to put an asterisk next to Roger Maris's record to show that Babe Ruth was the true home run king. However, the record was official. In the midst of this, Maris began losing his hair due to the stress from ridicule that came along with trying to break the record. Maris was despised, not because he did anything wrong or was involved in any scandal, but because he broke Babe Ruth's record, the most sacred one in the sport. But in other sports, even more records were being broken. That year, the men's shot putting record was broken 5 times. The world record javelin thrower was throwing 20 feet further than the record holder just 8 years prior. Larry Scott got 3rd in Mr. Los Angeles. 2 months later, he was 17 pounds heavier and finished 1st in Mr. California. He went on to win Mr. Olympia, competing at a weight 50 pounds more than he had just 6 years prior. That year, a 20-year-old college student had gained 48 pounds, increased his shot put distance by 9.5 feet in less than 2 years, then threw the longest shot put toss in history, all while having an injured knee. 8 months later, a Canadian newspaper ran a story crediting anabolic steroids for this throw, saying it turns men into apes, and heralded Dianabol as the drug that threatens to revolutionize sports, all while misspelling Dianabol the entire article. Bodybuilders in Babe Ruth's time looked like this. Now they looked like this. Weightlifters looked like this, and now they looked like this. Track and field athletes looked like this, and now they look like this. But baseball players still look the same. They were taking performance-enhancing drugs as well, but a different kind. In 1965, 58 million new prescriptions were written in the United States. In just 17 years, the country went from producing 360 million amphetamine tablets a year to producing 3.5 billion amphetamine tablets a year. Enough amphetamine for each American to get 43 doses for themselves. ADHD hadn't even been invented yet. They were prescribed to housewives trying to lose weight, to people with mild to moderate depression, to people with low energy, people with anxiety, and to children with head colds. The most famous musicians took them. Dorothy from Wizard of Oz was on them. The President of the United States was taking them, and supposedly 90% of Major League Baseball were taking amphetamines. The stuff fighter pilots were using in World War II were now allowing MLB players a level of focus they'd never felt before.
There is no such thing as a pill that can make any athlete perform any better than he could by staying healthy.
Dale Strawberry says they're so effective at making you focus, they literally make the ball look bigger.
Drugs do not help in any way a professional athlete perform his sport.
Chuck Dobson once had a 102-degree fever, was breaking out in sweats, and was too sick to throw a baseball. Then took amphetamines, and that day threw a complete game shutout against the California Angels.
What would happen if you take speed every 2 hours?
I think if you took speed every 2 hours, you'd have a very good chance of killing yourself.
Doc Ellis of the Pirates says he took up to 17 pills before each start. John O'Donohue was supplied 500 pills a month. Bowls of them were supposedly placed out in the open for players to take. Certain clubhouses had 2 pots of coffee, one with caffeine and another pot of coffee laced with amphetamines. In the 1960s, a basketball coach was caught giving his high school basketball team amphetamines before games, then was fired after a player had a nervous breakdown. The captain of the U.S. tennis team openly bragged to reporters that the team had a, quote, secret weapon, more dope and pills than anyone on earth. And a cyclist at the Olympics collapsed and died after taking them. The death caused cycling to become the first sport to ban the use of amphetamines. The top English cyclist at the time criticized the ban. A year later, he collapsed and died at the Tour de France. The autopsy showed that he was on amphetamines. These deaths spurred the Olympics to institute the first ever drug testing policy in 1968. 1,000 athletes were tested. Only one tested positive. A Swedish pentathlete who was stripped of his bronze medal after testing positive for alcohol, meaning the first ever drug suspension in Olympic history was a man who supposedly drank 2 beers before the event because he was nervous. Finally, doping was now increasingly being looked at as cheating. In 1969, Sports Illustrated released a 3-part expose on drug use in sports, mostly focusing on sedatives, barbiturates, and amphetamines as the drugs threatening athletics, stating, quote, "The excessive and secretive use of drugs is likely to shake public confidence in many sports," warning that a sports scandal of major proportions was coming. To a much lesser extent, the article also mentions anabolic steroids. Most of the public hadn't even heard of anabolic steroids, but in strength sports, they had already taken over. The U.S. weightlifting physician publicly stated it wasn't possible for a strength athlete to compete internationally without steroids. The editor of Track and Field News openly called steroids the breakfast for champions. 90% of athletes in heavy field events use steroids in the Munich Olympics, and now, according to Sports Illustrated, 90% of linemen in college football were on steroids. Football now, too, was infested. A former U.S. weightlifting coach was hired to teach the San Diego Chargers how to weightlift. He taught them how to weightlift, and in training camp, allegedly gave each player a pink pill with each meal they ate. When a player refused to take the pill, he was fined. That pink pill was Dianabol. The Chargers were literally prescribing their players steroids, allegedly not telling them they were steroids and fining them if they didn't take the steroids. Chargers went from 4-10 the season before to going 11-3, becoming AFL champions, and it was perfectly legal. There was no law that made steroids illegal and no rule against taking them for sports. A high school football team was even used as a test subject for anabolic steroids at this time. A pharmaceutical company supplied anabolic steroids to a high school football team and was only stopped after their rival football coaches found out and complained. By the 70s, FIFA, pro cycling, and the Olympics all implemented drug tests, but none of them banned steroids. Olympic weightlifter Ken Patera was asked about his chances against the Soviet Union. He said he felt good because last year the only difference between him and his opponent was his drug bill. Last year, he couldn't afford the drug bill. Now he could, openly admitting to doing steroids before the Olympics, and was still allowed to compete in the Olympics. The public was beginning to pay attention to doping, but steroids still weren't on the radar. Horse racing had been testing for over 60 years at this point. A decade prior, horse racing had been the most popular spectator sport in the country. In the 70s, trainers were exposed giving their horses powerful diuretics. A Hall of Fame trainer was caught giving his horses painkillers and stimulants in 1983. In the late 80s, a 5-time Kentucky Derby winner was caught giving his horses bicarbonate. In the 2000s, trainer of Big Brown, former Kentucky Derby winner, admitted to giving his horse steroids. In 2 decades, horse racing viewership dropped 46%, going from the #1 spectator sport in the country to today, where only 1% of sports fans describe it as their favorite sport. In 1968, however, it was the biggest story in sports. Kentucky Derby winner Dancer's Image tested positive for a banned painkiller and was stripped of its title. On the cover of every major newspaper, it was described by Sports Illustrated as the year's major sports story. The public was outraged. At that same exact time, Red Sox pitcher Jim Longborg was openly taking the exact same drug. Nobody cared. When asked, the president of the National League stated that there was nothing in the rules that prohibited drug use. It has never come up, and I don't think it ever will. Little did he know, something massive was about to come up. In 1970, Doc Ellis accidentally took acid before a game. Says he couldn't feel the ball, couldn't see the batters, and thought the umpire was Richard Nixon. He went on to throw a no-hitter that night under the influence of LSD. Nearly 1 year to the exact day, Richard Nixon announced the war on drugs.
America's public enemy #1 in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
Part of this offensive was a congressional hearing on drugs in sports. 3 decades before Congress famously called in MLB's biggest stars to grill them on steroid use, they called in the NFL, the NHL, the NCAA, Olympians, and MLB, who were all pressured by Congress to begin drug testing their athletes. The NFL's response to potential testing? Quote, "Urine analysis for professional athletes is an absolute outrage and invasion of privacy." MLB players also refused, saying that drug testing would be irritating to quite a degree. Within a few years, players estimated that 40 to 90% of NFL players were on steroids, but that number in MLB was close to 0. The accepted philosophy in baseball at that time is that muscles actually made you worse at baseball. Certain teams even banned weightlifting. Certain players were fined if they were caught lifting weights.
They have a picture there, the fattest man in all of professional sports. Am I right? The guy is a balloon.
There wasn't a single strength coach in MLB, and wouldn't be for another 15 years.
What a fat tub of goo.
The scientific, disciplined culture of Soviet weightlifting, of bodybuilding, and track and field helped lead them to take anabolic steroids. Baseball's culture was the opposite. Ron Darling says that when the amphetamines would wear off towards the end of games, players would go to the clubhouse, chug a beer so they could, quote, re-kick the bean and be refocused for their last at-bat. Joe Pepitone says that bleacher creatures at Wrigley Field used to throw him drugs during games. He would take the drugs, hide it in the Wrigley Field ivy, then retrieve it after the game. Partially in order to please the administration and their anti-drug messaging, MLB released an anti-drug film in 1972, highlighting the horrors of drug use. Keith Hernandez says he did so much cocaine one season, he doesn't remember the entire year. Lonnie Smith played with socks with pockets in them so he could have cocaine on him during the game. Tim Raines said he would slide head first because he played with a vial of coke in his back pocket. Snorted more than $40,000 worth of cocaine in a year, while leading the league with 78 steals that year. Lonnie Smith led the league in runs and was second in MVP while having coke in his socks. And the year Keith Hernandez doesn't remember, he was an all-star. Led the league in on-base percentage, won a Gold Glove, won a Silver Slugger, and smoked cigarettes in the dugout the entire time.
We've turned the corner on drug addiction in the United States. Drug addiction in the United States is under control.
Drug addiction in the United States was not under control.
Top story tonight, cocaine.
Cocaine is now becoming the in drug.
In 1972, 1.5% of the population was on cocaine. That number was nearly 5 times higher just 5 years later in 1977. The usage doubled in 1 year in 1983. Say hello to my little friend! And by 1985, ages 18 to 25, 28% of the population had used cocaine before.
All the people you ever heard of freebasing, have you ever heard of anybody blowing up? 10 million motherfuckers freebase, I gotta blow up.
One player estimated that 40% of the league was on the drug by the early 80s. Manager Whitey Herzog says he would make his team fly into certain road trips the day of the game instead of the night before, just so his players would play at least one game not hungover. Darryl Porter had the best season of his career, putting up an OPS plus of 142, led the league in runs, won a Gold Glove, got third in MVP voting, and one game climbed over the dugout and punched a fan in the face because he was taunting him from the stands.
Say no to drugs. Baseball cares.
According to him, he also did a gram of cocaine a day throughout the entire season. That offseason, he became paranoid, became convinced the commissioner of baseball was trying to sneak into his house so he could ban him from the league. Porter sat up all night, watching out his window, wielding a shotgun and a billiard ball, waiting for the commissioner to arrive. The commissioner did not arrive, but the party would soon be over.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions. They're killing our children.
Lonnie Smith, famous for hiding cocaine in the pockets of his socks, got mad at the Philly Fanatic one game, fought the Fanatic, tackled him to the ground, spraining both of the mascot's ankles. Fans were so angry, they booed him and threw things at him in the outfield. That night, he snorted 14.5 grams by himself, went 36 hours without sleep, then checked into rehab. That offseason, he was traded and later devised a plan to murder his former general manager for spreading false narratives about him. He never went through with the plan.
Sports figures can help lead the way in our fight to defeat drug abuse.
Tim Raines, famous for sliding headfirst to preserve the cocaine in his back pocket, stole 90 bases in a year and made 7 All-Star teams in a row. Then began falling asleep on the bench, missed a game due to a coke binge, began getting booed by his own fans, and that offseason checked into rehab.
This is Bill Cosby. Now that everybody has told you about the dangers of doing drugs, I'd like to tell you about some of the benefits. Just imagine yourself unconscious, making a visit to a hospital emergency room, weeks in rehabilitation centers, nights in overcrowded prisons, spending more money than you can afford, ruining your health, hurting your parents, losing your loved ones, and most of all, destroying yourself. I think you can say no.
Rod Scurry fell asleep in the bullpen 20 to 25 times in a season, nearly died 3 times in a season, and during paranoia, tore up a hotel TV on a road trip because he believed there were snakes inside of it. That offseason, he was arrested.
I don't need drugs. I believe in me and my ability. If you're into cocaine, get off it. You're living a lie.
John McHale, president of the Expos, believes his team didn't win their division in 1982 because they were on cocaine. Whitey Herzog says 40% of his team was on it, and that, quote, "I'll believe cocaine is the reason I didn't win a World Series in Kansas City."
I just want to shake some sense into you kids that are using drugs and thinking about using it. So remember, don't.
In a game in 1984, a batter got thrown at and the pitcher gets ejected. The bench is clear. An all-out brawl breaks out and an umpire falls to the ground. The batter, Pascal Perez, walks back to the dugout undeterred. The players continue to fight. The umpire is wrestling with the players. Things begin to settle down. Then a Padres player gets free and charges the Braves dugout to find Pascual Perez. He is stopped. A fan throws a drink. Two fans jump on him and bring him down. The players are now fighting themselves and the fans on the field and in the dugout. Then another fight breaks out. Two fans are arrested and taken off of the field. Everybody calms down, players are ejected, and the game begins again. Then Greg Nettles is hit by a pitch. He charges the mound, gets hit in the face, and is brought to the ground. Things calm down, but Nettles gets free again. He tries to tackle the pitcher again and is taken down again. Another scuffle then breaks out. A fan then throws something in the Padres dugout. They start screaming back at the fan. A drink is thrown, and a Padres player goes on top of the dugout to confront them. While this is happening, a fan runs on the field, tries to steal a batting helmet, and is crushed. A Padres player tries to break free to confront the fans on the field, and the fan is arrested.
Say yes to your life. And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, just say no.
The 25-minute brawl was initially started when Pascal Perez purposely hit Alan Wiggins with the very first pitch of the game. Both of these players had previously been arrested for cocaine. According to one writer, half the Padres roster was on cocaine. In 1980, future Hall of Fame pitcher Fergie Jenkins was arrested for cocaine. In 1982, 4 Dodgers entered rehab, and Rookie of the Year Steve Howe announced he had a problem. That year, Ronald Reagan redeclares the war on drugs. In 1983, 4 Royals players were sent to prison for cocaine. More news breaks that 2 Braves players were entering rehab after being confronted by the team. By 1985, nearly all 26 Major League teams had a player named in connection to cocaine in criminal cases. But the most consequential arrest wasn't a player. It was the Pittsburgh Pirates mascot, who allegedly was selling cocaine to the team.
More than a dozen big league stars have been implicated in cocaine abuse.
Him, a team photographer, a caterer for the Phillies, and several other people surrounding MLB were being investigated by the FBI. The investigations implicated 21 players who purchased cocaine from these team employees. The players were granted immunity but would have to testify. For 2 weeks, player after player went in front of a grand jury and were grilled on their drug use, as well as the league's willingness to blatantly ignore their drug use.
As a result of their sickness, they have become junkies. And as a result of their being junkies, they are prone to lie.
The Pirates had a cocaine dealer who occasionally traveled with the team on the team plane. They had a reliever leave a game early to go find cocaine, and a mascot who would help supply the team with cocaine. It was called the biggest scandal since the 1919 Black Sox by the LA Times. The commissioner says the Reagan administration was threatening investigations and legislation if they could not clean up baseball, openly saying that the sport was in trouble.
Now there's a cloud that's come over baseball, and it's a cloud called drugs.
His solution was drug testing. The owners agreed to testing. Many fans and media called for testing. Many players came out publicly saying they'd agree to testing, but all agreed they'd have to work it out through the players' union. The league could not mandate testing. Drug testing could only be implemented if the union agreed.
If they go along with it, if this voluntary program works, they will immediately remove doubt and suspicion that hangs over this game.
But the union had fought the league over 5 work stoppages in the past 13 years. They had just led the players on a strike a month prior and were currently preparing to accuse the league of collusion, in which the owners would eventually pay $280 million for artificially suppressing players' pay.
At the moment, the biggest rivalry in baseball isn't between teams, it's between team owners and the players' union. Their fight is over players' salaries, and correspondent Kwame Holman reports that the players think the owners aren't playing by the rules.
Widely considered the strongest union in America in the midst of an extremely contentious battle with the league, when asked about testing, the head of the players' union said, quote, It was silly.
This is an attempt to bypass the union. It is possibly unlawful. It is entirely inappropriate. And it is demonstrably unlikely to advance the ball further. What it does seem to be designed to do is to make news.
MLB instituted drug testing for all minor league players. Owners, executives, field managers, and umpires were now all being drug tested. But blocked by the union, MLB was not allowed to test players. 11 players involved in the Pittsburgh drug trials were punished, but none of them ended up serving a suspension. While the mascot, caterer, photographer, and other small-time employees who helped get the players drugs were convicted and either sent to prison or put on probation. A year later, Commissioner Uberoff declared the sport of baseball drug-free. And that same year, a man named Jose Canseco entered the league. 4 years earlier, he was on the JV team as a junior. Now he could bench 400 pounds, and by the All-Star break, he was leading the league in home runs. His nickname in the minors was the Natural. He hit 25 home runs in just 58 games. Called by one analyst the best prospect since Willie Mays. By the end of his first full season, he had already hit a home run in every single American League ballpark, easily winning Rookie of the Year. The next year, an even better rookie shows up. Mark McGwire broke the record for most home runs by a rookie with 2 months left in the season, finished 6th in MVP voting, and led the league in homers as a rookie.
Jose would like to officially present Mark with the 1987 Rookie of the Year award.
Him and Canseco start bashing their forearms together. This becomes a sensation. 50,000 posters are sold in a week. A song is made about them, and they become the biggest 1-2 punch in baseball, helping the A's set an attendance record 3 seasons in a row. McGwire just needs one more homer to become the only rookie in MLB history with 50 home runs. He misses the last 2 games of the season anyway for the birth of his child.
Well, you have to have fun. This game could drive you crazy, you know? I keep a good attitude towards it. I keep a funny attitude towards it. Let's just have fun.
Saying he'll get another chance for 50, but he'll never get another firstborn. Roger Clemens learned his wife was giving birth an hour before his start. He told the newspaper, quote, "It was a pretty big distraction. I would have liked to have left, but the team's been struggling lately." He pitches anyway, misses his son's birth, and throws a complete game with 9 strikeouts. He's outdoing McGwire and Canseco. In 1986, he covers first base, gets the out, but the umpire calls him safe. He screams in his face, gets ejected, turns his hat around, won't stop, is about to throw his glove, and literally has to be carried off the field. In a game in April, he faces his former college teammate, then throws a pitch next to his head, throws the next pitch next to his face. According to their other teammate, he had dared Clemens to hit him on purpose. He does this instead. He then strikes him out and goes on to strike out 20 batters this game, the most strikeouts in a game in Major League history. He did it at 23. He leads the league in ERA, wins 5th, whip, hits per 9, gets on the cover of Sports Illustrated, starts the All-Star game, wins All-Star game MVP. He not only wins Cy Young unanimously, he wins MVP as a 23-year-old pitcher. That October, he finds himself in the biggest game of his life.
Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, and welcome to Game 6.
The Red Sox haven't won a World Series since Babe Ruth was on their team in 1918. Now, they're 1 win away. Clemens gives up 2 in 7 strong innings, leaves the game with a lead. The Red Sox need just one more out to finish an incredible season. But then, in a blink of an eye,
little roller up along first, behind the bag, it gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
1 out away from breaking a 68-year drought, the Red Sox squander this game, go on to lose Game 7, and because of what has since been deemed the most consequential error in MLB history, the curse of Babe Ruth is not broken. The 1986 Mets win this World Series and become a team that lives in infamy. Just a year after Keith Hernandez was the centerpiece in the Pittsburgh drug trials, he's a Mets legend, a team he was traded to just because his former team thought he was on cocaine. This year, the Mets got in 5 brawls, including one in a bar that got 3 of their players arrested. An estimated 90% of the team was on amphetamines. When they won the game that sent them to the World Series, they trashed the plane so badly that 3 rows of seats were completely gone. They were banned from the airline and were given a $20,000 charge. Ownership approached the team with the bill, and their manager, Davey Johnson, ripped it in half, saying, quote, fuck this bullshit, adding that they would make enough money for the franchise in the next 4 games to cover it. He was right. They won the World Series, becoming the most legendary team in Mets history. 2.2 million people went to the parade. According to the mayor, it was the biggest ticker tape parade ever. 2,500 police officers were there. 1 got injured. 100 people left the parade with injuries. But their star pitcher, Doc Gooden, was nowhere to be found. Years later, he admitted it was because he was high on cocaine. They had a core of 5 players. Between them, they had 4 Rookie of the Year awards, 7 All-Star appearances, a Cy Young award, and none of them were over 25. They had Darryl Strawberry, supposedly took 9 amphetamine pills a game, every game, and would go on to go to rehab twice, get arrested, and suspended for cocaine throughout his career. So did Doc Gooden. He had arguably the best pitching season in history, then got suspended for cocaine, saying he believes his teammates told the team he was on cocaine as revenge because he wouldn't get them any more cocaine. He would go on to write a book where he claims his other teammate got so drunk he held his girlfriend hostage and decapitated her cat in front of her. Lenny Dykstra got a DUI and was put on probation for illegal gambling. This young core would only make the playoffs 1 more time.
Drugs. The only way to stop abusing them is to stop using them.
Roger Clemens, on the other hand, is an outspoken critic of drugs. He barely even drinks unless it's New Year's, his anniversary, or the Red Sox win the American League. The team physician says that Clemens' commitment to conditioning is unmatched to anyone he's ever known in baseball. His manager once took him out of a game because he thought he had a knot in his arm. He left the stadium in full uniform, went to the park with his wife, and threw 130 pitches against the fence just to keep his arm in shape. He has a weight room in his house, a full freezer full of ice, notebooks filled with scouting reports, even has scouting reports on umpires. In the offseason, he runs 10 miles a day, then follows that up with a heavy weightlifting routine. The next day, he runs 10 more miles, does a light weightlifting routine, and repeats. At this point, the New York Yankees and other teams still have a ban on weightlifting. According to Don Mattingly, their clubhouse food selection featured cold cuts and a candy rack. The Oakland Athletics, however, have a strength and conditioning coach, the first one in MLB history. A documentary about Arnold Schwarzenegger put bodybuilding into the mainstream. He then becomes the biggest movie star in the world. WWF is being watched by millions. The biceps of G.I. Joes would go on to double in size. In 1960, 24% of Americans exercised. Now, 68% of Americans exercise.
You're all warmed up now and ready to do the arm exercise.
There are now 17 million gym memberships in America.
Hey, get burned. 3.
15 years prior, in 1972, there were 1 million. At that point, the San Francisco Chronicle described cocaine as the aristocrat amongst dope. It was described as in vogue, glamorous, the champagne of drugs, a symbol of status amongst the middle and upper class. An entire generation of upper-class baseball players indulged. But now, a decade later, drugs weren't seen as glamorous.
Medical experts say that in Miami, 10 crack babies are born every day.
Instead, exercise is now being featured in Glamour magazine. Newsweek says that the gym has replaced the singles bar, and New York Magazine says that working out is the upscale activity middle and upper class people are doing. The new young generation of baseball players were no exception.
Our team is big, and everybody knows that. And the year 88, look what we've done. Everybody will remember our team because of the bash and how big we are. It's probably the biggest baseball team in the history of baseball.
The Oakland Athletics became the first team in MLB history to have a full weight room in their clubhouse. After breaking the record for most home runs by a rookie, Mark McGwire says he began his offseason lifting the very next day. Comes back in 88 and finishes 3rd in the AL in homers. His teammate Jose Canseco was 1st. Before the season, he boasted that he was going to hit 40 home runs and steal 40 bases. The public thought this was arrogant.
What I didn't realize is that there are no members in the 40-40 club.
That year, he leads the league in homers, leads the league in RBI, in slugging, in OPS plus, and wins MVP of the league.
It's an old cliche, but he has muscles on his muscles. I've never seen a guy that's built like him.
He hits his 40th home run in September. and a week later, he steals his 40th base. Canseco is the second heaviest player in baseball, 25 pounds heavier than Babe Ruth. He's 4th in the AL in steals. This combination of strength and speed has never been seen in baseball history. Canseco emerges as the best player in baseball, and the A's finish the season with the best record in baseball, setting up a matchup between the Red Sox and Roger Clemens to see who was going to the World Series.
Third batter, playing right field, number 33, Jose Canseco.
However, before the series started, columnist Thomas Boswell had something to get off his chest.
Tom Boswell, a fellow out of Washington, has made an accusation.
Good friend of mine. While talking about steroids on a TV show, Boswell told Charlie Rose that Canseco was, quote, the most conspicuous example of a player who has made himself great with steroids, saying he had talked to other major leaguers who referred to steroids as a, quote, Canseco milkshake. That his own manager had admitted that Canseco, quote, made some mistakes earlier in his career, referring to steroids, and that Canseco suspiciously gained 50 pounds of muscle in an offseason.
I don't know if he's trying to take away from the MVP season that I have, but basically the statements that he's made are false. I mean, some of them don't even make any sense if you ask me.
His manager Tony La Russa says he was taken out of context, says that Jose Canseco is clean. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, and he doesn't do drugs.
If you're wondering what that chant is in the background, they're yelling steroids as he comes to the plate and as when he went to left field.
And I think it's unfair, but that's what happens when people use innuendo.
Fans chanted steroids and just say no at Canseco throughout the entire game. He responded by playfully flexing his muscles at the crowd.
Well, this guy coming up to the plate just creates an air of excitement, doesn't he? Look at those numbers.
In his second at-bat, he silences them.
Left field, that ball going back, and the ball is out of here.
Canseco leads the A's to a Game 1 win, but in Game 2, the Red Sox throw out back-to-back Cy Young winner Roger Clemens.
This guy, Jose Canseco, comes to the plate. The crowd's alive. They react on everything he does.
The A's go down 2-0. Roger Clemens is lights out, pitching deep into this game. In the 7th, he has to face Jose Canseco again, this time with the runner on first.
These kind of confrontations are what really turns people on. It's like Borg against McEnroe, Russell going against Chamberlain, and now we've got Canseco going against Roger Clemens.
Henderson at first, Canseco, and a call strike.
Canseco doesn't like the call. He's 0 for 2 tonight, and now he's down 0-2 against the best pitcher in baseball. But needing just one more strike, Clemens makes a mistake.
Fly ball, high in the air to left field. Greenwell watching that one. It's gone off the screen. And his second home run of this championship series.
Canseco ties the game, and the A's go on to win. Then they return home. There are no more boos. Instead, there are signs calling for Thomas Boswell to get drug tested. The A's stomp the Red Sox, and in Game 4, Jose Canseco comes to the plate, and before the game barely gets underway,
Canseco, right center field, ball is well hit, way back, it's out of here.
he deals the death blow. Canseco ties an AL record with 3 home runs in the ALCS and does it in 4 games, wins MVP, and later, when asked about Boswell's comments, he says, quote, "Accusing me of steroids is as ridiculous as accusing me of being a homosexual." Canseco told the media that he was considering suing Boswell. Boswell afterwards declined to make any further comment. A big story going into this series, so overshadowed by Canseco's record-breaking performance, most write-ups on the series, when it ended, don't even mention steroids. Steroid accusations in other sports were getting a lot more attention. The NFL also had a cocaine problem, and it was probably worse. 2 players were arrested for trying to sell a pound of cocaine to an undercover cop while in the NFL. Another player was facing 114 years for selling cocaine while in the NFL. In the 1979 Super Bowl, a player played with an inhaler with liquefied cocaine tucked into his pants and hit it during the game. He also forced a fumble, then was later sentenced to 4 years in prison.
There is no way that the NFL and the NFL Players Association can any longer sidetrack this problem.
Drug use became so rampant and players became so out of control. According to testimony from one player, his team owner allegedly hired hookers and had them wear wires to get information from players. He then sent that information to the commissioner. A player sued the league for being given drugs by his team that were purposely given to make him more violent.
Look at it as how much I can hurt the guy across the line from me.
Another player on another team sued the league because he says his team gave him amphetamines in order to make him more violent.
Enjoy getting hurt. That's saying that I've accomplished something.
In the 1980s, the NFL was becoming more violent. In 1959, 42% of players suffered a major injury. Now 72% of NFL players had suffered a major injury. Of the players who retired in the 80s, 48% of them did so because of injury.
Anybody who tells me that they go out there to have fun playing football, they're a liar. Because this game isn't fun. This game is a war.
To avoid more lawsuits, the NFL began restricting, monitoring, and prohibiting their doctors from prescribing amphetamines. And by 1979, the commissioner said the NFL did not have a problem.
Cleveland Browns defensive back Don Rogers, it confirms the preliminary autopsy findings that he died from an overdose of cocaine.
3 years later, the commissioner said the NFL's drug problem might be bigger than society's drug problem. And according to society, there was a massive drug problem. In 1986, a majority of Americans, 56%, said the government spent too little money fighting drugs. In the late 80s, polls show that a majority of Americans thought drugs were the #1 issue facing the country. In 1982, Rock Donnelly won the NFL strongman competition, bench pressed 400 pounds 9 times, then admitted he was on steroids. Quote, "It's just another competitive edge a lot of players use," saying that a lot of his Steelers teammates take steroids too, but their team physician was against them, saying that their physician was, quote, old school. He says he doesn't take pride in taking steroids, but thinks there's a place for steroids in sports. And this was now a public debate. The Olympics banned steroids 5 years before. Multiple Sports Illustrated articles exposed the severity of steroids in the NFL. An anonymous player's wife came out saying steroids made him more vocal, hostile, mean, and suicidal. That player said 5 of his teammates started taking steroids at the same time. Within a year, they were all either divorced or separated from their wives. In that expose, it was alleged a 14-year-old boy was given steroids without his knowledge by a high school football coach. But the commissioner of the NFL publicly said that steroids were approved by the league if prescribed by a doctor, saying, quote, "When it's under a doctor's care, steroids can help rehabilitate injuries." A year later, NFL's medical advisor disagreed, calling steroid use in NFL extensive and dangerous. Another Sports Illustrated article called steroids a problem of huge dimensions. Now the commissioner admits there's a problem. One player says 40% of the league was on them. Multiple players admitted they were on them. But the head of the players' union said he never knew of any guys who were on them.
The understanding, as I mentioned previous to this, of what the steroid does. There is no documented proof what it does, what the harmful effects are, and what the positive effects are. Lab tests, though. They're scientific tests. No, I don't care about scientific tests. I don't care what they do with animals. I care what they do with the human being and an athlete, what he does, and how long he stays
An
up.
NFL coach was accused by another team of dispensing steroids like candy and knowing of one player who was forced by his team to take steroids. Now, the NCAA begins testing. The biggest player in college football ends up testing positive. He calls the NCAA communist, says he has a prescription, says that steroids are legal, and that the NCAA themselves doesn't even know what they're testing.
The NCAA doesn't have any idea what they're doing. I think they're looking for a Merry Christmas, and they got one this year. Back up to you, Don.
The next year, a West German athlete dies just a year after finishing 4th in the Olympics. The autopsy shows she had the anabolic steroid stanzabol in her system. The media blames steroids for the sudden death. A South Carolina football player publicly says he was driven to suicide because of the effects of steroids, and it is reported that 1 out of 15 high school-aged males is doing anabolic steroids. Steroids are entering the public's consciousness, but not as the miracle drug that increases strength, but as a health threat infiltrating the youth. And no league was more synonymous with steroids than the NFL. Scared of public backlash and more lawsuits, the commissioner writes a letter to players warning them of the dangers and calls on the league to implement drug testing. But the NFL Players Association refuses. Meanwhile, in the midst of their war on drugs, the government now widens their scope to steroids, and law enforcement begins cracking down. Several busts expose college sports programs. 32 on one single team are connected to steroids. A strength coach at Vanderbilt is arrested for giving it to players. A strength coach at Clemson pleads guilty to distributing steroids to their athletes. And that very same year, the Arizona State baseball team was allegedly giving their players a drug for severe neurotic depression to make them better at baseball. The report reveals that 8 of the team's players were prescribed antidepressants for, at least according to one player's account, performance-enhancing benefits. A junior outfielder on that very team was none other than Barry Bonds. His godfather was Hall of Famer Willie Mays. His cousin was another Hall of Famer, Reggie Jackson, and his dad, Bobby Bonds, at one point was dubbed the best baseball player on the planet. Barry Bonds was born and raised to be the best baseball player ever, and he acted like it.
The operative word on Barry Bonds is arrogant.
Nearly 2 decades before Canseco, his dad had been 1 homer away from being the first player ever to hit 40 homers and steal 40 bases. But amidst rumors he was a drunk, he was traded. He told the media his family was staying in California because his 10-year-old son Barry had a girlfriend. 15 years later, his son Barry's in the major leagues, and he tells Playboy magazine he had 2 girlfriends. Barry Bonds was one of the best high school players in the country, but didn't make the state all-star team because he slept in the bullpen during the tryout. He was the best college baseball player in the country, but was kicked off the team for breaking team rules. His coach, knowing he needed Barry to win, told the team to vote on whether or not he should be reinstated, thinking, without a doubt, they'd vote to keep Barry on the team. The entire team, except for 2, voted him off the team. But needing Barry Bonds, the coach kept him on the team anyway.
Lately, incredibly well right now. We thought he probably would. He had to grow up, and he's really starting to contribute.
In 1988, it's reported his teammates jumped him and beat him up in the locker room after he pushed his teammate in the locker room. Later, another story surfaces that he shoved a pizza in a teammate's face on a team plane. The team photographer for the Pirates later said, quote, "I hope he dies. I hate him that much. I've seen him do things to people that go beyond evil."
To me, that's my game. I don't want you to like me. If I think you like me, I'll do anything possible to make you not like me.
He arrives the same year as Canseco, plays 44 less games than Canseco, puts up more WAR than Canseco, but unlike Canseco, he doesn't win Rookie of the Year in the National League. In fact, he doesn't even get top 5 in voting. Over his first 4 seasons, Bonds is the 6th most valuable player in the league by WAR, yet he doesn't win a single Silver Slugger, doesn't win a Gold Glove, doesn't make an All-Star team, or get a single MVP vote. In fact, in 440 less games played, Bonds has nearly the same wins above replacement through his first 4 seasons than Mark McGwire and Jose Canseco had combined. Yet in 1989, he makes 4 times less money than Jose Canseco.
Carl, trade me. Simple. You know, to save yourself a lot of grief, you can just trade me and not have to worry about it. I'll see you when we play, unless I'm in the American League.
Bonds breaks out, makes his first All-Star team, wins his first Silver Slugger, gets his first Gold Glove, and wins his first MVP award in the same season. Bonds feels that he's grossly underpaid. He demands he gets $3 million next season or be traded. At the same time, Jose Canseco signs the biggest contract in baseball history. He's the biggest man, the richest man, and arguably the most recognizable man in MLB. But he too was beginning to get bad press.
You're a tough athlete, but have you ever found yourself hurt by something the press said?
A lot of times, being misunderstood.
Canseco had gotten arrested for speeding, had gotten arrested for having a loaded gun, and was still talking about the steroids accusation 2 years later.
When I did a JO fund, I spent 6 or 7 hours signing consistently. You won't hear about it. That's just the way the press has hurt me in the past.
Canseco says he lost over $1 million in endorsements because of these steroid accusations made by Boswell.
By saying Jose Canseco is using an illegal substance, which is steroids, which is totally out of line, totally wrong, and it was very, very, abusive. It's left a scar on me for a long time. Thomas Boswell, he approached me. He says, Jose, I'm real sorry for what happened. I'm real sorry for what I said. I didn't mean it in any malicious manner. I didn't think it was going to be blown out of proportion. The only reason I said it is because I heard rumors.
Boswell backs off his comments, but the cloud over Canseco persisted. The public was becoming more aware of steroids every year, and during the 1988 Olympics, the issue became unavoidable. 4 years prior in Los Angeles, the Olympics was the most watched television event in the history of American television. The most watched athlete was Carl Lewis. On the cover of Sports Illustrated, on the cover of Time magazine twice, he was named AP Male Athlete of the year before the Olympics. Then competed in 4 track and field events, won gold in all 4 events, and won AP Male Athlete of the Year again. Carl Lewis becomes an American hero and briefly perhaps the most famous athlete alive. Then he loses. A new challenger emerged.
The impact of his physique is dramatic.
The year before the next Olympics, he beats Lewis.
He has enormous deltoid muscles, very thick muscling in the neck and the upper body in general.
He's recognized as a hero by the Canadian government.
He's able to bench press about 400 pounds.
Supposedly is making $400,000 a month in endorsement, and now he wins AP Male Athlete of the Year.
I'd like to also point out that over the last couple of years, Johnson has gained between 15 and 20 pounds of muscular body weight.
But then Carl Lewis comes back and beats Johnson just 6 weeks before the Olympics, setting up the most anticipated track and field event in history. The 1988 Seoul Olympics breaks every viewership record possible. 3.5 billion viewers. And again, the 100-meter sprint is the marquee event. 100,000 people pack into the stadium to see the fastest people ever at their athletic peaks go after each other. The race starts.
And it's a fair start. And it is Raymond Kerr with a start. It is Ben Johnson with a start.
And it's not even close. Ben Johnson not only breaks the record, he destroys the record, beating it by 0.14 seconds, the biggest single improvement in history. 3 days later, he tests positive. Drugs were once again the biggest story in America, but for the first time ever, steroids were the drug in question.
Canadian track star Ben Johnson, as we've been seeing, has focused the world's attention on steroids.
All of us agree that the gravest domestic threat facing our nation today is drugs.
Every president for the past 2 decades, Democrat and Republican alike, has declared war on drugs. Quite frankly, the president's plan's not tough enough, bold enough, or imaginative enough to meet the crisis at hand.
63% of Americans now call drugs the #1 issue facing the country. 75% of Americans want the government to spend more money fighting drugs, and 38% of them think drug dealers should face the death penalty. Americans had grown terrified of drugs, and now they were learning about why they should be terrified of steroids too.
Steroids can kill. Men could develop female sex characteristics, such as enlarged breasts.
There's no reason to use something that's going to kill them before their time.
A committee headed by Joe Biden had been working on criminalizing anabolic steroids, and since it was the sport with the most steroids, they called in the NFL to Congress to make a point. Players, the commissioner, the Players Association, owners came to Congress and they were grilled on how they allowed steroids to infiltrate the sport. Shortly after, the Players Union finally agreed to year-round random steroid testing, the first pro sports league to do so. Meanwhile, in track, Ben Johnson's medal and record are erased. However, 6 of the 8 runners in this race would fail a test at least once in their career. A woman named FloJo broke the woman's record the same day. Despite never testing positive, she's been a suspected steroid user ever since. At the time of this race, a track and field athlete had won Athlete of the Year 5 of the last 7 years. In the 37 years since, only 2 track and field athletes have been Athlete of the Year. One of them was Marion Jones. She then tested positive. It would be 14 years until another sprinter could beat Ben Johnson's record. He also tested positive. FloJo's 100-meter sprint record still stands today, 37 years later. The last 100-meter champion ran a quarter of a second slower than the champion 3 decades prior. According to the record book, sprinters are getting slower, and the sport's viewership is getting lower. A dramatic decline in viewership, sponsorships, and meets have occurred since 1988. In the 80s, track and field was one of the most popular spectator sports in the world. In 2022, the World Championships boasted its best ratings in 18 years. It was 5 times lower than the average day during the 1987 World Championships. But somehow, the NFL avoids this. No notable records are broken, no championships are tarnished, and in the midst of all of this steroid controversy, their popularity actually grows. However, MLB's popularity was taking a massive hit. 1992 was the second least watched World Series in history. Attendance has fallen for the second time in 3 years.
Well, it's now beginning to explode, and we're going to get out of here, Ron.
In 1993, a fire broke out at Fulton County Stadium. Someone heating up food with a can of Sterno left it unattended. The stadium did not have a sprinkler system or access to water in their suites. The Braves ended up playing this game anyway. In front of a few thousand people with no more press box, the public service announcer announced each batter by screaming their name without a microphone. That year, the World Series was watched by even less people. During this time, CBS had just signed what was dubbed the costliest overbid in the history of network sports. Over the course of a 4-year deal, CBS lost $1.06 billion due to declining MLB ratings. CBS's president said baseball needed to get its younger viewers back. ESPN's president said baseball needed, quote, radical surgery to bring it into the latter half of the 20th century. The LA Times reported that baseball had lost its grip on the country. While MLB just had its second worst rating in World Series history, NBA just set a record for the most watched NBA finals ever. The league had just added 4 teams. Duke had just gone back-to-back over Michigan's Fab Five in what was called college basketball's golden era. The Dream Team had just been the biggest story in sports. Michael Jordan just won his 3rd NBA title in a row, was the most famous athlete on earth, and had turned NBA global. The LA Times wrote that the 1990s was the era of information overload, instant gratification, and shortened attention spans. Baseball was the game in the years before television, radio, and telephones. In the 1990s, America wanted something livelier, more modern, more pertinent, saying that basketball offers the quickness of the soundbite generation. But come 1994, MLB began looking livelier. Offense was up, average was up, slugging was up, and MLB was on pace to have 1,078 more home runs hit than just a decade prior. People began coming up with theories why. The league introduced larger-than-life players like Albert Bell, famously destroying Fernando Vina at second base and getting suspended for it. In a tie game in the bottom of the 11th, he once wanted to drive in the winning run so bad, he got hit by a pitch and refused to go to first base. He argued with the umpires for minutes because despite clearly getting hit, he refused to go to first base, then finally was forced to go to first base. A man with so much strength and power, he broke his bat on a check swing. An opposing team was tipped off that Bell was using a corked bat. The umpires confiscated the bat and locked it in the umpires' room so it could be checked for cork after the game. Knowing that the bat was corked, his teammate Jason Grimsley climbed into the ceiling, crawled above the umpire's room, fell into the umpire's room through the ceiling, replaced Bell's bat with a different bat, and escaped. Umpires quickly realized the bat belonged to someone else because the bat had someone else's name written on it. And because the clumps of ceiling tile on the floor, they concluded someone had snuck in. The police were called and a former FBI agent was flown in by MLB. MLB threatened federal charges if the original bat wasn't returned. 12 years later, Jason Grimsley's house was raided by FBI agents. They found $3,200 worth of HGH. He gave up the names of 9 steroid users in MLB, asked his team to release him, and never played another Major League game again. But for now, he was safe. Albert Bell fessed up, agreed to send his actual bat, it was x-rayed, it was filled with cork, and he was suspended 7 games. Many chalked up Bell's monster year to him cheating with corked bats, while journalists blamed lack of quality pitching, smaller ballparks, and potentially juiced baseballs for the offensive explosion. That explosion helped MLB finally break out of their attendance plateau. On pace to have the highest attended season ever, Tony Gwynn was hitting .394 in August, trying to become the first player since Ted Williams to hit .400. Matt Williams was on pace to break the single-season home run record of 62. Michael Jordan, the biggest athlete in the world, had quit basketball and was now playing baseball. MLB had momentum in 1994, but the feud between the Players Association and the owners had reached a point of no return. The Players Association is known by many as the strongest union in America. They became that way in part by triggering 7 work stoppages in 18 years, more than any other sport by far. The owners, tired of losing to the union, were ready to make a stand. They hired a new commissioner, Bud Selig, began claiming owning an MLB team was no longer profitable, and suggested a salary cap was the solution. The Players Association, so disgusted with the idea of playing baseball with a salary cap, decided they'd rather not play baseball at all.
We're out and with only one strike, and this strike could end the entire Major League Baseball season.
With over a month left to play, the players went on strike. Oral Hershiser told the reporter there was a 90% chance the players would come back and finish the season. Pedro Martinez told the reporter, "I think everything will be over before we think." And Bobby Bonilla told the reporter to shove a microphone up his ass.
Why are you being Well, come on, you're making noise. You're stupid. Didn't I tell you to leave? I told you to leave me alone, didn't I? Was I nice to you? Shove that mic up as far as you can stick it.
Players were now not only fighting owners, they were now fighting the backlash from media and fans.
It's stupid. I think the players should just be selfish.
You think the players would be selfish?
Yeah. And they make enough money anyway.
The relationship between owners and players was so bad that after the last game, the owner of the St. Louis Cardinals wouldn't even let his team on the team plane, forcing them to get their own plane rides home. A strike that some players predicted would last a few weeks ended up being the longest work stoppage in professional sports history.
The World Series has been played on in the midst of 2 world wars, in the midst of the Depression era, but now in 1994, in the midst of the greed era in Major League Baseball. No World Series, no more baseball this year. TSN's Rod Smith reports.
The Washington Post wrote that the 1994 strike and the 1919 Black Sox scandal would be linked together forever. Both killed a World Series. A few years after calling it the best sport ever, Thomas Boswell wrote 99 reasons baseball was worse than football and soccer and ping pong, saying there was nothing worse than baseball. The New York Daily News rallied readers to boycott the sport altogether, telling fans to send these self-serving creeps a message.
They get paid all that money. They really don't need any more money. And the owners, they say they don't make enough money. But the question is, what is enough money?
The negotiations got so contentious that even the government had to get involved.
I still think this can be settled. The parties are just going to have to decide whether they want to have a baseball season in '95 and what the long-term damage to baseball will be, and therefore the economics of both sides if it doesn't happen.
Not even they could get the two sides to agree. Commissioner Bud Selig at one point got so upset he cursed out Vice President Al Gore in the White House, saying, "You people double-crossed us." The owners attempted to break the union by playing with replacement players. Guys like Joe Cipollone, who left his job at a pizzeria to play for the Phillies. And Pedro Bourbon, he went to go play for the Reds, even though he was 48 years old. The owners planned on playing real games in front of real people with amateurs. Bobby Bonilla said that any player who crossed the picket line and became a replacement would, quote, end up in the East River. A U.S. District Court judge named Sonia Sotomayor ruled that the use of replacement players was unlawful and ordered the two sides to start the season under the former agreement and play games until a new agreement was in place. After 8 months and no agreement, the two sides were essentially ordered to play baseball again. The Angels sold $1 tickets and still couldn't sell out opening day. There was not a single sellout on opening day. The Pirates tried to lure fans in by giving away free pirate flags. In the 5th inning, the game was delayed because fans started throwing the pirate flags on the field. Tom Glavine got booed at his own stadium. 3 fans ran on the field and protested on the second base bag in New York. 1 fan ran into the outfield and threw a $1 bill at Bobby Bonilla's face. 948 games were missed. Owners lost over $1 billion in revenue. Players lost over $300 million in salary. And 39% of people who attended a game in 1994 said they wouldn't in 1995. As a whole, attendance dropped 20%. The strike was such a hit on baseball that in 1994, the same year as the O.J. Simpson murder, the strike was voted in polls as the biggest and worst sports story of 1994. Baseball was pronounced dead.
Really? Has the American pastime become a little tarnished?
I think it's become America's past its time at this point.
And to cap off one of the worst seasons in baseball history, that year, the head of the Players Union
Burn that autograph. It won baseball.
and Commissioner Bud Selig
I'm just grateful there's baseball again. I really am. It means a great deal. You know,
were caught screaming at each other during the World Series.
Harry Carey back to Wrigley Field where the season is over, and the Cubs gave us a great run for it, and the fans really appreciated it. From a personal standpoint, another year has come to an end, and hopefully, if the good Lord is willing, I'm looking forward to 96 more than I have towards any season yet.
Mark McGwire hurt his back in 1989. He hurt his rib cage in 1992, missed almost all of 1993 with a heel injury, missed the beginning of 1994 with a back injury. It had been almost 8 years since he was 1 home run shy from 50 as a rookie, and he hasn't come close yet. He gets hurt again in 1994 and misses the rest of the year with a foot injury. Afterwards, McGwire says he heavily considered retirement. His own father talked him out of it. He returns in 1995 and becomes an all-star, and in 1996, he hits 52 home runs. McGwire's secret? Heavy lifting, 3 days on, 1 day off, all year round. Ken Caminetti never hit 30 home runs in a season. In 1996, he hits 40. USA Today describes him as a recovering alcoholic who's now addicted to weightlifting. He carries around what he calls a goodie bag. It's filled with pills and vitamin, and calls himself a, quote, supplement freak. He's dealing with injured ligaments, an injured abdominal, and an injured shoulder. At one point, he goes 3 for 39 and considers ending his season early for surgery. He decides not to and somehow leads the league in average, leads the league in slugging, leads the league in RBIs and OPS. He's massive and intimidating, but is known for generosity. A gentle giant who waited outside the stadium and greeted fans to apologize for the players' strike. Caminetti had only been to 1 All-Star game before this. Now he's MVP of the league. He becomes so beloved in San Diego, they make a song about him. Jose Canseco released his own weightlifting book. He helped make weightlifting popular in baseball almost a decade ago. Now he's teaching young phenom Alex Rodriguez how to lift. He comes to Canseco's home gym in the offseason. The two went to Guantanamo Bay together to do charity and play baseball for refugees during the strike. After the strike, Alex Rodriguez has one of the best rookie seasons in history and finishes second in MVP at 20 years old. Sammy Sosa was coming off his first 30-steal, 30-home run season. He's labeled selfish by some of his teammates because he wears a medallion that says 30-30 on it. Back home, he buys a shopping mall, calls it the 30-30 Shopping Mall, and builds a statue of himself. Rafael Palmeiro hits 37 home runs on the Rangers, but doesn't get re-signed. He calls the Rangers general manager a bozo and proves it. He gains 8 pounds of muscle weightlifting and hits 39 homers 2 seasons in a row. He hits at least 38 home runs every year for the next 8 years. In 1996, everybody was hitting home runs. The Orioles, the Mariners, the A's all break single-season home run records. 17 players hit 40 or more home runs, the most in history. There were more players with 40 home runs in 1996 than the previous 6 full seasons combined. There were more hits than any other season in MLB history. There were more runs scored than any other season in MLB history, and there were more home runs hit than any other season in MLB history. For pitchers, this became a real problem. Even for guys like Roger Clemens. He had an ERA over 4 and had the worst season of his life in 1995. It was noted that one spring training he weighed 40 pounds heavier than he did his rookie season. He says that was due to weightlifting and a medication that made him bloated. The Red Sox were furious. He had been on the DL 2 of the last 4 seasons, and his fastball at one point sitting at 98 had dropped all the way down to 92 miles per hour. In 1996, he puts up only his second losing season ever. His own GM makes a comment that Clemens is, quote, in the twilight of his career. Thinking he's over the hill, the Red Sox purposely lowball Clemens, forcing him to sign elsewhere. After publicly saying he wanted to be a Red Sox for life, he goes to Toronto, and the Boston media calls him a con man. But Clemens believes his 1996 stats don't represent his actual talent. He believes something was different about the ball that year, and that it was carrying more than normal. And Roger Clemens wasn't the only one who thought this.
Baseball exploded during the first half of the season, producing a gluttony of offensive stars and questions. Is it the balls, the bats, the ballparks, or simply simply the bad pitching.
People knew something was up, but nobody seemed to know what. Throughout baseball, people became convinced that something was different about the ball. Sparky Anderson, Jim Leyland, Bobby Cox, and plenty more all came out and said it. Curt Schilling said that he uses the ball every day and knows for a fact the seams are strung tighter than ever. After losing a game due to a 3-run home run hit by Kilvio Varis, manager Jim Leyland said, "You can't tell me the ball isn't juiced. I never wanted to give into that theory before, but Kilvio fucking Varis? I don't care if you throw it in there at 84 miles per hour or put it on a tee for him. There's no way Kilvio Varis should be able to hit a ball that far. I'm stronger than Kilvio Varis." MLB saw a 27% increase in TV viewership. Early on in the season, attendance was up 7%, ESPN ratings were up 19%, and apparel sales were up 86%. To the league, more offense was good. Others inside baseball did not think it was. Jason Stark wrote, "Offense in baseball is out of control." Bucky Dent proclaimed that there was too much offense in baseball, and Tony Gwynn was worried about records. He said the power explosion may cost baseball something it cherishes more than other sports do: credibility. Records will be tainted if they're broken too easily. At this point, Sparky Anderson had already publicly stated that any record from here on out should have an asterisk, but not because of steroids, but because MLB was purposely juicing the baseballs because they wanted to regain the viewers they lost during the strike. Others, however, were blaming steroids. Pitcher Tim Belcher said that everybody blames the pitchers and the balls, but it's also steroids. His general manager also raised warning publicly on the increase of steroids in baseball, and Jim Leyland told the newspaper, quote, "I'd swear on a stack of Bibles we don't have steroids on this team, but I wouldn't know about the rest of baseball." This article goes on to mention that some estimate 35% of the league is currently on steroids. The year before, Bob Nightingale wrote an article that quoted the general manager of the Padres estimating that 10 to 20% of the league was on steroids. It also quotes Tony Gwynn, one of the biggest players in baseball. He says steroids are a big secret nobody's supposed to talk about. The article even says that Bud Selig had acknowledged the issue of steroids and that it had been addressed amongst the owners in a private meeting, quote, a year or 18 months ago. Finding out the source of the increase in offense was one of the biggest stories in baseball in 1996. Very few people brought up steroids. People were way more likely to bring up the smaller sizes of the new baseball stadiums. Many people just thought the pitchers were getting worse. Expansion brought 2 new teams. This meant more roster spots and more watered down pitching. Others blamed the strike zone. It had been shrinking for years. Before the season, the league tried to fix it by telling umpires to expand the strike zone. Many thought the umpires ignored the new strike zone, keeping it smaller than ever. Some blamed aluminum bats in youth leagues. One writer even blamed cold weather. But if you talk to the power hitters of 1996, they all said the same thing.
In '94, you had 32 home runs at the All-Star break. I don't think many people talked about a juice ball at that point. Now everybody's talking about it. What do you think?
I just think the athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster today.
Brady Anderson says he quit eating fat and simple sugars. He hired a track coach for $200 a session, has a gym in his basement, and brings a black bag of vitamins and his own blender to the stadium every day. A teammate says he once saw Anderson squat 200 pounds while standing on a medicine ball. In 1996, he breaks out in a way that is rarely seen in baseball history, hitting 34 more home runs than he did in 1995, the second biggest season-to-season increase ever. All of a sudden, Brady Anderson is a star.
I didn't know you were a baseball fan.
I'm not. I'm a Brady Anderson fan. He is so hot.
The New York Post publishes an article titled "Gays Rooting for Brady Anderson," noting his cult following in the gay community. This article traces back the origin to a poster of Anderson posing shirtless on his website, which became popular on internet chat rooms. This became a big enough deal that the Orioles spokesperson had to tell Out Magazine, who was doing a piece on Anderson, quote, "You do know he's straight, don't you?"
Brady Anderson? Oh, I don't believe it. Oh, I'm your biggest fan. What are you doing here?
Anderson was also featured in a magazine shirtless on rollerblades, and around this time, nearly every single other baseball player was also photographed shirtless. Sports Illustrated had Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, Edgar Renteria, and others post shirtless for a story on young shortstops. They photographed Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa shirtless, made sure to get Nomar Garciaparra on the cover, shirtless. A plethora of baseball cards cars were now showing players shirtless. The public's obsession with health and fitness had only gotten bigger. Starting in 1990, there was a 600% increase in Men's Health magazine subscriptions in just 7 years. Gym memberships went from 17 to 36 million in the 90s, nearly doubling in a decade. Trends that began in the 80s continued, but bigger. Action heroes were bigger.
I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
Wrestlers were bigger. And new trends began.
With more and more athletes choosing to train naturally, the need for effective supplements has never been greater.
Supplements had entered the mainstream. GNC became one of the most successful retail stores of the decade. Starting in 1992, they nearly tripled the amount of stores in just 4 years as new supplements were being created and marketed to the public in droves.
The Amino 1000 gel capsule, exclusively at GNC.
MLB players were the ones selling them. Brady Anderson becomes a spokesperson for the supplement company EAS and begins marketing their trendy creatine supplement. Creatine went from $50 to $200 million in sales in just 2 years. A minor league team sets a league record in homers and credits creatine. Pitcher Paul Bird says he gained 2 miles per hour on his fastball by taking creatine. Ryan Klesko says he put on 5 pounds of muscle by taking creatine. An article claims that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers banned creatine, that the Padres and Cubs try to prevent their players from taking creatine because it's so powerful and the side effects are unknown. It mentions that Mark McGwire, Mike Piazza, Gary Sheffield, Ken Caminetti, Jason Giambi, and Jose Canseco are all taking creatine. Now, all of a sudden, people are blaming creatine for the increase in offense. Henry Rodriguez had played in 7 MLB seasons and put up a negative WAR in all but one. His manager wasn't sure if he'd make the roster in 1996. In his first 7 years, he had a combined 72 home runs. In May of 1996, he is on pace to hit 66 home runs. And he is not the only one threatening to break Maris's 61 home run record. In May, Barry Bonds, Brady Anderson, and Albert Bell are on pace to break it. By the halfway point, Sammy Sosa and Mo Vaughn have a chance. Writer Jason Stark-Boley predicts that somebody will break the record this season, but Larry Anderson loses an appendix. Ken Griffey Jr. gets hurt. Sammy Sosa gets hurt, leaving just one player left with a chance to break it.
I said it all along. Until somebody, whoever it may be, there's a lot of candidates for that right now. Until you get to 50, I don't really think you can really even talk about it.
But people were talking about it. McGwire was hitting a home run once every 7.2 at-bats, an MLB record. He had put on 30 pounds since his rookie year. Now, he's launching homers to Canseco territory.
And now he just pounds one to left field. That is in the 50.
He had missed the first 3 weeks of the season due to injury, but in August was somehow still on pace to be one shy of Maris's home run record. When asked about the record, he said, quote, "I'm not close to anything. Quote, I don't know what the big deal is."
Well, I don't believe he's going to have time to do it this year, but he is always a threat. And if we can ever have one season where he's completely healthy, I think you will see him assault the 60 home run schedule.
Columnist Steve Buckley wrote in 1997, "Think about all that's been written about baseball in the last decade. Strikes, lockouts, sex, drugs, and alcohol. The Roger Maris home run chase is like a fastball down the middle for a sport badly in need of some good publicity." Going into 1997, people around baseball treated the breaking of Roger Maris's record as a foregone conclusion. With the rise of power, somebody was bound to break it. And by July, McGwire was on pace for 57. Then he gets traded. He surprises everybody by signing a long-term deal in St. Louis instead of going to free agency. He takes less money, defers money, and donates $1 million to a children's charity. McGwire is praised.
He's so dignified, a remarkable guy, and a tremendous leader.
St. Louis falls in love with him. Fans pile in to watch his batting practice, and the media follows him and praises him everywhere he goes.
The fact that he really doesn't believe he's bigger than the game, and that the things he does really contributes to making baseball more of a popular game. And generally, that's not what most athletes, certainly professional baseball players, think nowadays.
McGwire falls 3 home runs short of Maris's home run record. Notoriously shy, he reportedly gets whiny with the media. He was trying to do everything he could to stay out of the spotlight. Now, he had no choice. 3 million more fans went to MLB games in 1997. TV ratings were up, and it was clear record chasing and home runs was helping revive the game. So in 1998, once again, the record becomes a story before the season even starts.
No active player hits home runs with more force or frequency
than St. Louis Cardinals first baseman Mark McGwire. What everyone wants to know this year is, will that be enough to break Roger Maris's single-season record of 61 home runs?
McGwire told the media there's no reason to talk about it until someone gets to 50. Then, he hit 4 home runs in his first 4 games. Everybody was talking about it.
What happens if Mark McGwire hits 70 home runs?
If I hit 70 home runs, I retire. Why come back and play?
On May 31st, he's on pace for 80 home runs. There's no avoiding the questions.
I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm saying it can be done. I really believe it can. It has to be a perfect season, though.
When Roger Maris was chasing the record, he was hated for it. McGwire was being heralded as saving the sport. Stadiums are filled, ratings are up, news networks are now reporting on his batting practice.
Drawing thousands to see him whack moonshots in batting practice. Wednesday at BP.
Today's BP. Off the Jumbotron. Are you kidding me?
In batting practice, McGwire getting things to hit. Check this one out. Off the scoreboard at the Jake. He's the only player to ever hit that scoreboard.
This says he's starting to feel like a caged animal, a circus act. So he's cutting back on BP.
Thousands show up hours before the game, and he's hitting home runs out of the stadium. McGwire already became the biggest story in sports, and just when MLB thought it couldn't get any better, somebody else showed up.
What a country, Hi. Hi, everybody.
McGwire hit 4 home runs in his first 4 games. It took Sammy Sosa a month to hit 6. At the end of May, McGwire had 27, more than twice the amount of Sammy Sosa. Then in June, Sammy Sosa hit 20 home runs. Sammy Sosa hit more home runs in June than the Phillies, Mets, Rays, Reds, Pirates, and Marlins. Sammy Sosa hit more home runs in June than any other player in MLB history hit in any other month in MLB history. Fans run on the field and try to congratulate him after his 20th. They get tackled. Sammy Sosa, mostly unknown outside of baseball circles a month ago, is becoming a household name.
Now, in Chicago, I am the man. Excuse me, Michael.
Sosa had been traded twice, labeled uncoachable, called overrated and selfish everywhere he went. The last time Sammy Sosa made a headline was at the end of the 1997 season when his manager screamed at him in the dugout for purposely ignoring a sign, trying to steal, and getting thrown out at second base. His nickname at this point was Sammy Soso. Time magazine said he was known as a, quote, big creep. But the world, now just finding out about Sosa, love him.
It's for being very, very good to me.
He hops every time he hits a home run, does his famous kiss-blowing celebration, buys 3 houses for his mom, multiple businesses for his sister, donates computers to schools and ambulances to hospitals. He's instantly a star. Sosa comes all the way back to Ty McGwire at 47 home runs, the day before the two play each other. In the most anticipated matchup of the year, Mark McGwire comes into Wrigley Field tied, and in the second game, Sosa pulls ahead.
He sends a rocket deep toward left. Back goes Mabry at the track, at the wall. He's got it, number 48.
Sammy Sosa is the home run leader for 1 hour.
Swung on, belted deep toward left. No doubt about that, baby. We are tied. Swung on, belted into center field. Johnson back at the track, at the wall. McGwire has number 49.
This head-to-head matchup exceeds everybody's expectation. It had been 4 decades since someone beat the single-season home run record. Now MLB somehow had 2 challengers, and both were beloved, marketable, and controversy-free. But just 2 days after this masterful showing, controversy came.
For something other than home runs. Mark McGwire says he's taken it for over a year. It's called androstenedione. Sold over the counter, it's a pill that produces male hormone, which builds lean muscle mass and helps recovery from injuries.
After a game, reporters gathered around Mark McGwire, and one noticed a supplement in his locker. It's called androstenedione. Steve Wilstein reported that the drug is illegal in the Olympics. It's illegal in the NFL, college sports banned it, and a shot putter just got a lifetime ban for taking it. NFL's advisor on steroids is quoted in the article saying that androstenedione is a steroid. It has anabolic qualities, therefore is an anabolic steroid. For the first time ever, Mark McGwire is linked to steroids and has to answer questions.
There's people across America laughing at what the media has done with this thing. It's absolutely nothing. It's a supplement. It supplements my workouts, period.
Writer Tom Verducci asked him straight up if he'd ever taken steroids. He said Never. The story becomes so big that Andros sales increased 1,000% the following year. The league could not ignore it. The commissioner and head of the Players Union come out announcing a joint study on the drug and other supplements. But MLB doesn't ban androstenedione. It's approved by the FDA and is available over the counter. Braves shortstop Walt Weiss comes out publicly and calls the whole thing a joke, saying he takes it too. Jeff Bagwell also says he takes andro. In fact, nearly the entire league comes to McGwire's defense.
This guy goes to the gym every day and works. All that hard work is being tainted by crap like this.
His manager attempts to get the Associated Press banned from the clubhouse for publishing the story. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch recreated the scene at McGwire's locker and concluded that the writer had to, quote, intentionally look and look hard to be able to read that label.
If it's legal, do it. That's just smart. That's not stupid.
All the power to him. I hope he hits another one.
Writer Dan Shaughnessy wrote, quote, no wonder players loathe the media. The article is disparaged and the reporter is ostracized for making something out of nothing. Under intense scrutiny, McGwire had shown some frustration with the media throughout the year.
That's in the past, son. The past is the past. Do you live in the past? I don't. It's over with. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't want to make you angry.
A week after the Andros story breaks, McGwire loses it. After a close call, he argues with the umpire and is warned he won't stop arguing with the umpire. Tony La Russa comes out to protect McGwire and gets ejected. McGwire tries to shove his coach to the side to get closer to the umpire, and after 3 warnings, he's ejected. It was a sellout that day. 47,000+ people there just to watch McGwire. This was the first inning. They began throwing things onto the field. The game had to be stopped for 10 minutes, and 2,000 people left the game in the first inning.
Are you looking forward to October 1st season being over and you can go home?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great release for me to finish the season and hopefully do something historical, and then just hang out with my son.
But no matter how much this attention weighs on McGwire, he will not stop hitting home runs. After the Andros story drops, he hits homers in back-to-back games, and so does Sosa. Sosa is chasing McGwire, and the entire time, he won't stop talking about how much he loves McGwire.
This is for you, Mark. I love you.
The two end August tied with 55 home runs each. With a month left to play, the record is a foregone conclusion. The question is, who will break it first? Then McGwire hits back-to-back home runs, 2 games in a row. McGwire is 1 home run shy from tying Maris, and it just so happens he's playing Sammy Sosa.
Swing! Look at there! Look at there! Look at there! McGwire, number 61.
He ties the record, then breaks the record with Sammy Sosa in attendance.
Down the left field line, is it enough? Gone! There it is! 62!
5 days later, Sammy Sosa breaks Maris's record.
Swung on, there she goes! Number 62! Move over, Big Mac, you got company!
And there's still a scrum going on for the ball.
62, baby!
So here is man.
And with 4 days left in the season, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa are tied at 65 home runs. McGwire is followed 24 hours a day by 2 detectives hired by MLB. The FBI New York City Anti-Terrorism Task Force has specifically marked the baseballs hit in these games. Each one is potentially worth millions. With 3 games left, Sammy Sosa takes the lead.
Can you say 66?
Then, McGwire ties it. The next day, he hits 2 home runs in 1 game.
High fly ball, line drive, deep center field. No man has hit more home runs in a single season.
Then, in the final game of the season, he hits another bomb.
There's the drive.
He has 69 home runs and is coming to the plate for his very last at-bat of the season.
Take a good long look. This is going to have to last you until next March in Florida. First and third, 2 out. Into the field! Number 70! How much more can you give us, Big Mac? Number 70!
Mark McGwire hits 5 home runs in 3 days. He hits 2 home runs in back-to-back games and reaches 70 on the final at-bat of the season. To this day, their September 7th matchup is the most watched game in ESPN history. The MLB ratings on Fox increased 20% that year. A record 70 million people went to MLB games in 1998. 7 million more people than the year before. Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa had transcended baseball and were elevated to living legends.
I got the man of the hour here. Sammy, I think you had a pretty good season, huh?
Yeah, I have to say 1998 has been unbelievable, not only for me, for a lot of players, especially Mark McGwire. Hey, for Atlanta, we never know what can happen. We might see in the World Series.
That offseason, McGwire gets a meeting with the Pope. Sammy Sosa becomes friends with the president.
A beanie baby. I love that. That's terrific.
McGwire and Sosa both win Sportsman of the Year.
And the ESPY goes to Mark McGwire. Thank you very much. And I'm glad baseball's back on top and back. Thank you.
The two were now in movies. They were now in TV shows.
How'd you get in here? I hate when this happens.
They were in commercials.
Somebody say McDonald's?
They were at the VMAs.
So let's give it up for the Backstreet Boys.
And they were credited with saving baseball.
Imagine for just a moment that we are back at last year's ESPYs. We tell you that there is a man who's hit 50 homers the last 2 years, which makes him Ruthian, of course, but it also makes him feel the public's great expectations. Every swing at batting practice and every movement at first base. Amid such daily pressure, he gets to 50 in August. Drives that would clear Yellowstone Park. He gets to 61 on Labor Day, 62 the next night on a heat-seeking, low-flying howitzer. Pressed by his newfound friend and soulmate Sammy Sosa all the way to 66, he responds on the final weekend with a barrage to bring his total to a preposterous 70. And he shared all this with his son, his family, his newfound extended family, the Marises, for that matter. He shared it with all of us with love and with respect. It's too good to be true. You're right. It was. That's why our final nominee for Male Athlete of the Year is Mark McGwire.
Nearly a year after McGwire's Andro discovery, it still wasn't banned in MLB. They may have been the only sport not to. They had banned steroids, but still had no testing policy, making them and the NHL the last two major sports not to test, and a few reporters began questioning MLB's policy. How come MLB allowed their players to take Andro? But if they took Andro while playing the Blue Jays in Toronto, they could be arrested. There were more home runs hit than any other season in MLB history in 1998. And in 1999, MLB hitters were blowing those numbers out of the water again. A man named Brian Giles batted .315, slugged over 600 with an OPS over 1,000. He hit 39 home runs and got 19th in MVP voting. There were 22 players who weighed 230 pounds or more before the strike. Now, there are 84, nearly a 400% increase in 5 years. According to one account, Barry Bonds' hat size increased 2 sizes. His jersey went from size 42 to 52. His shoe size grew from size 10.5 to 13. And Bonds had gained at least 55 pounds from his days playing in Pittsburgh. MLB had 2 of the biggest athletes in America. Once again, they finished first and second in home runs. Ken Griffey Jr. was in his marketing prime, and their most storied franchise, the New York Yankees, had returned to dominance. They had won 3 World Series in 4 years, and in 2000, they were going for their 3rd in a row. Roger Clemens has returned to prominence. After the Red Sox said he was in, quote, the twilight of his career and let him go, he immediately wins back-to-back Cy Youngs. Now, he's on the Yankees. He's facing Mike Piazza in the World Series. He hates Piazza because Piazza dominates him. He had nearly killed Piazza with a pitch earlier in the season. On the ground for several minutes, the Mets were furious. This sets up an anticipated matchup in the World Series. Piazza breaks his bat, Clemens picks it up and throws it at him. Clemens was apparently so angry and so caught up in the moment, he went to the clubhouse and cried. He stays in the game, pitches 8 innings, and the Yankees go on to win their 2nd straight World Series. It's clear baseball has regained its cultural significance. In 2001, when tragedy struck on September 11th, it's baseball that is known for bringing the country back.
I don't know about you, but as for me, the question has already been answered. Should we be here? Yes.
Just 6 days after the attacks, games resume. In his first home game since the attacks, Sammy Sosa hits a home run and rounds the bases with an American flag. Just 10 days after the attacks, games resume in New York City.
And it's hit deep to left center.
Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza and the Mets lead.
That year, another New York team is in the World Series. In Game 3 in New York, the President of the United States throws out the first pitch. The Yankees, looking to extend their dynasty and win their 4th straight World Series, run into the 2 best pitchers in baseball. One of them is Curt Schilling. At 34, he leads the league in wins, innings pitched, complete games, and finishes 2nd in Cy Young voting. He goes 7 strong and gives up just 1 run. Going into the 8th, Schilling begs to stay in the game.
That's enough. That's enough. No. Listen, you're at 88 right now. We got BK locked and loaded for the last 6 outs, man. Let's you're a hero already.
Right to go another one. I mean,
let's save him. Let's save him. Let's save him.
His manager says no. But according to a book written by Joe Buck, Schilling was spent. He had told his catcher to make sure his manager didn't make him come out for another inning. But when he realized the cameras were on him, he pretends he wants to come back in, knowing he was coming out either way. Schilling later called Joe Buck an ass clown, saying, quote, "I never in my life asked out of a game."
Right, because I'm always all right. I always feel like whatever I've got left is better than whoever you're going to bring in. So you're asking a question that you already know the answer to.
Young Hoon Kim comes in, and the broadcast continuously shows Schilling on the bench. But this time, he does not have a towel over his head. He would end up blowing the 2-run lead. The game goes into extras, and in the 10th, Derek Jeter wins it on a walk-off.
At the wall! See ya! He is Mr. November!
Schilling comes back in Game 7 and pitches another 7 innings with 9 strikeouts, but leaves the game with a 1-run deficit. The Yankees put in the best closer of all time to win their 4th World Series in a row. Curt Schilling wins World Series MVP. He goes 4-0 in the postseason. He pitches 3 games in 21 innings in 7 days, all in the World Series. He wins Sportsman of the Year while also being able to raise millions for ALS research. He wins the Roberto Clemente Award, as well as the Branch Rickey Award, adding to his Lou Gehrig Award and his Hutch Award, all awarded for his charitable and extraordinary character off the field. Schilling also reportedly offended his teammates in Arizona, drove them bonkers, and according to Juan Gonzalez, sometimes you need to unplug Curt to stop him from talking. The next year, in 2002, he told a reporter, "I need to think twice before slapping my teammates on the butt, because that's where they shoot their steroid needles." Quote, "You sit there and look at some of these players, and you know what's going on. Guys out there look like Mr. Potato Head. I'm not sure how steroid use snuck in so quick."
Carew touched off a Major League rhubarb this week when he called for random testing of baseball players for steroids. Lee Cowan tells us that doubts are growing about the heroes of today.
Rumors of steroids in baseball had slowly been picking up steam. In 1999, Andros sales had increased 1,000% after McGwire was discovered taking it. Many of them were kids. Steroid use amongst teenagers had reached an all-time high. Now McGwire was being blamed.
"Young kids take it because of me," he said. "I don't like that."
The White House comes out publicly saying they're looking into reclassifying Andro as a controlled substance.
It's not a steroid. Like, if it was an anabolic steroid, FDA would have never approved it, and you can't buy it over the counter.
McGwire publicly comes out saying he no longer takes it.
How many home runs Mark McGwire could hit without taking the controversial supplement androstenedione? Well, now we have our answer. 42 home runs.
The next year in 2000, Red Sox infielder Manny Alexander lent his car to a teenage equipment manager. The police thought the kid had stolen the car, so they searched the car and found syringes with anabolic steroids. Alexander was not punished. Several months later, the New York Times published an article. In it, one player estimates 4 out of 10 MLB players are on steroids. A strength coach and general manager estimated that 30% of the league were on steroids. The Padres had tested 25 minor leaguers a year. 1 out of 5 of them tested positive for steroids. Ron Snyder wrote a month prior, quote, "One of baseball's worst kept secrets is the fact that some players use anabolic steroids. Everyone in the world seems to know that, except officials in the commissioner's office. However, they now too seem to be aware." MLB comes out saying they're interested in implementing drug testing. They even began testing their minor league players for steroids. However, MLB players would have to agree to testing, and the head of the players union wasn't even willing to admit steroids would even help a baseball player. Quote, "The question of whether or not steroid use is performance enhancing has to be treated on a sport-by-sport basis." In 2001, this man helped prove that steroids do help baseball players. At 36 years old, Barry Bonds has arguably the greatest offensive season in history. He slugs .836, the highest slugging percentage in history, has an OPS plus of .268, the highest in history, and gets walked more than any player in history, while still on pace to blow Mark McGwire's record out of the water. However, a lot less people seem to care. According to one MLB spokesperson, there were 50% less media credentials requested for Bonds compared to McGwire. Thomas Boswell wrote, "The home run king is not what it used to be. It took nearly 4 decades for Maris's record to fall. Now it's been surpassed 6 times in 3 seasons. And Bonds not only breaks it, he destroys it, hitting his 73rd home run on the last game of the season. 3 years ago, a man making $30,000 a year caught Mark McGwire's 70th home run ball. He sold it for $3.03 million, the most expensive baseball of all time. The man who caught Bonds' 73rd home run ball got 6 times less, just $450,000. A national tragedy, a new war, Bonds' reputation, and record fatigue all contributed to the muted reaction. Bonds was celebrated, never directly linked to steroids, and for the most part avoided questions about steroids. However, according to USA Today, 80% of fans now believe that steroids played a role in the recent records being broken. And that offseason, the commissioner of baseball acknowledges, quote, he had concerns over steroids. Unfortunately, the league and the players union was fighting again. The sport was booming. Since 1995, attendance was up 30%. They had just broken the attendance record for the 3rd time in 4 years. Revenue was up nearly 63% in 6 seasons. The players union, hell-bent on making sure this extra money would go into players' hands, was preparing to go on strike again. One fan wrote, "I will burn each and every one of your cards, just like you are burning this game to the ground." Another said he would never listen, watch, or read about baseball again. Even the president goes public saying he would be, quote, furious. A strike had nearly killed baseball, and the fans' reaction to this one was looking a lot worse. But on the very last day before the strike was set to begin, the two sides agreed to a deal. Games resumed, and everyone was relieved. However, there was still no steroid testing. Instead, the league and the union agreed to a confidential test in 2003. All players would be tested. If 5% or more tested positive, only then would they agree to full-fledged steroid testing. According to one player's rep, quote, "I don't want to belittle its importance, but there is a lot of issues on the table that will come up before steroids." The players were aware of the growing distrust amongst fans. However, this distrust didn't outweigh the issues of revenue sharing, luxury taxes, and a salary cap. Unfortunately for them, this distrust would only get worse.
The problem is no one knows for sure if the accusations are right. Unlike the NBA or the NFL, so far there is no random drug testing in the major leagues. In fact, there's not even a policy against the use of steroids.
In 2002, only 17% of players were willing to admit in a poll that they backed the union's stance on no testing.
These days are bigger, faster, stronger, and also under suspicion.
I think steroids has turned the game into a laughingstock. I think the record book is being shredded like an Enron document.
Derek Jeter comes out saying, "Steroids are a big issue. I don't have a problem with testing because I have nothing to hide." 4 years after breaking the record, Mark McGwire no longer has the record. Yet all of a sudden, everyone was doubting his record.
No one believes the numbers anymore. Everything comes out of a pharmacist's bag. You know, we're not sure what's real and what isn't.
His admission to using Andro made him the face of steroids.
Stuff has nothing to do with me hitting a baseball. It has nothing to do with my hand-eye coordination. Right. Totally legal, all natural. And I think the people that are making the comments have worse things to worry about than saying things about me.
After breaking the record, McGwire said he was taking a media break and had given away most of his memorabilia from his record-breaking season. He spent 2000 and 2001 mostly hurt, and in the 2001 playoffs, McGwire was struggling. He had struck out 6 of his 11 at-bats, and in the decisive Game 5, he had gone 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts against Curt Schilling. But in the 9th, with a runner on first and nobody out, McGwire was set to come up with a chance to send the Cardinals to the next round. His manager, Tony La Russa, decides to pinch hit McGwire.
So Mark McGwire with 3 strikeouts tonight is going to be lifted. Shows you what kind of a year he has had. That didn't happen prior to this year.
Nope. The Cardinals would lose this game and get eliminated. This would be the last game of Mark McGwire's career. That offseason, he shocked everyone, turning down a $30 million extension and retired. McGwire felt like he had nothing left to give.
I'm in a no-win situation. You know, I don't care if it was me or somebody else. You're in a no-win situation. What I went through last year and all the energy that I had to entertain myself as far as going to the ballpark every day and staying within myself, and going into spring training this year, I sort of felt drained. And I start thinking back, like, why am I feeling drained? I feel great physically. But because I think of what I went through last year, it drained me. Was it worth it? Yeah. I say that with hesitation because of what I have to deal with every day. What I did last year, I'll never get back. I mean, it was the best. Even though it was so stressful, it was the best. But dealing with what I'm dealing with this year, with just be able to walk out in public, it doesn't happen. I can't do it.
So what you had last year, you'd never give back. And what you had prior to last year, you'll never get back.
Right. My life will be like this for the rest of my life.
Meanwhile, McGwire's old teammate Jose Canseco was having an even harder time.
Blackballed. Why do you suppose you were blackballed?
There's a definite answer for that, and I am writing a book, and you would have to read the book to find out the true story and the true life of Jose Canseco.
In 2002, he gives an interview that rocks the baseball world.
You also mentioned steroids. How prevalent is steroid use in Major League Baseball right now?
It's more than what people think, and it's more what people can imagine. It's rampant.
Canseco says that 85% of Major League Baseball players are on steroids.
Have you ever done it yourself?
That'll be covered in the book. Everything's going to be covered in the book. Who was involved in it, who's done it. There'll be certain names that will shock the world.
In 1998, Canseco was on pace for another 40-homer, 40-steal season, but says the Blue Jays suddenly told him to stop stealing bases. According to Jose, they did this to decrease his value so they could pay him less in his upcoming free agency. In 2000, he got traded to the Yankees, but is left off the postseason roster. He gets just one at-bat in the World Series. In 2001, Canseco was mostly hurt. In 2002, he gets 0 major league opportunities. He spends 18 games in the minor leagues, then retires. Canseco is convinced that MLB is trying to keep him out of baseball.
Bottom line, you know how baseball works. If you're putting the bat on the ball, there's going to be a job for you somewhere, right? You did that last year with Chicago. You're leading me to believe that you can still do that. How is there not a job for you if you can still do those things?
I cannot give you that answer right now. It will all be in the book. There is a very definitive answer to that. And once you hear the answer and the explanation, you will definitely say, yeah, it's true.
All right, so you believe that you're blackballed.
Canseco began selling his baseball memorabilia, saying, "What baseball has done to me has left a real bad taste in my mouth. I really don't want any memories of it." Canseco announces he is writing a book and promises it will, quote, be the most interesting book sports has ever seen.
Are you not betraying others? Are you not ratting other guys out?
Absolutely not. And I'll explain to you why. All my friends that I thought that I had in baseball turned their back on me. And I could look them straight in the face in the camera right now and say, they all turned their back on me. Not one called me. I couldn't get a hold of anyone who I thought were my true friends, who I had done a lot with, spent time with their families. Not one called me, and not one I can get a hold of. Not one.
Shortly after, another bombshell drops on Major League Baseball. Ken Caminetti had exploded in 1996 while dealing with 3 different injuries. He says he couldn't even lift his arm over his head and still won MVP.
I accepted the MVP award. Part of my speech was God gifted me this year, and he really looked after me, and I really believe that.
5 years later, he had been released twice. He had been arrested for crack possession and was now trying to get sober. He feels like being honest about his steroid use will help.
I took a black market deal, and it's the worst thing I did. Like I said, I was trying to do anything to play, and I knew I was tore up. So I said, okay, dude, hold together, hold together, hold together. And I played that whole year, and I was MVP. And now I look back and say, I cheated almost,
Caminetti became the first prominent player to admit to steroid use. In an article written by Tom Verducci, Caminetti says he used steroids to get through multiple grueling injuries, saying, quote, "I've made a ton of mistakes. I don't think using steroids is one of them." This becomes a Sports Illustrated cover story. Commissioner Bud Selig afterwards says, quote, "It's a problem we can and must deal with now, rather than years from now when the public says, why didn't you do something about it? I'm very worried about this." Meanwhile, MLB's other savior was also taking massive hits.
Watch out, and that got him in the helmet.
Going into the 2003 season, the Sports Business Journal called Sammy Sosa the most marketable active player in baseball. By the end of the year, his own fans wrote to the Chicago Tribune, calling him a, quote, "hypocrite, an exposed sham of a baseball player, a mediocre, graceless ham." One fan from his own hometown said, quote, "We can't forgive him. He smears all Dominicans with what he did." Throughout McGwire's Andro controversy, Sosa skated by saying all he took was Flintstone vitamins.
You've done this because of Flintstones? Yes, this is a vitamin that I use.
He told the media he'd be the first one to volunteer to a drug test. Reporter Rick Riley took this literally and approached Sosa with an address to a clinic where he could take a drug test. Riley says Sosa screamed at him and told him, quote, "You are not my father." Sosa's defense was that doing a drug test would get him in trouble with the union, and was probably right. But this didn't stop the public from questioning how he went from 165 pounds as a rookie to weighing 230 pounds now. Shortly after, Sosa got caught cheating in a different way.
The corker of a story, that's when the Chicago Cubs responded to the 8-game suspension of Sammy Sosa.
Sosa had been hurt. He had missed 3 weeks with an infected toenail. He returned and struggled, and on June 3rd, his reputation changed forever.
This isn't They're looking for a few more pieces of the lumber. No, they're looking to see what's in the bat.
He was caught hollowing out his bat and adding cork inside in an attempt to make it lighter, a move outlawed in MLB. Sosa admitted the bat was corked and said he had corked the bat to use in batting practice so he could put on a show for fans, but this time accidentally used it in a game. Sosa sent 76 other bats into MLB to get tested. Only one, the one he used in the game, had cork in it. He was suspended 8 games. Now on the road, Sosa gets booed. Fans show up with signs calling him a cheater. A fan runs on the field in Baltimore and throws cork at Sammy Sosa while playing in right field. Jason Stark wrote, "This may forever taint his legacy." Sosa's legacy would take another hit. Sosa went to the team that year and asked for an extension. The media called him selfish. In 2004, the Chicago media called him the Windy City villain. During the last game of the season, Sosa was out of the lineup. He decided to leave the stadium and go home instead of watching the game. His teammates, supposedly sick of Sosa, smashed his boombox while he was gone. Sammy Sosa would never play another game for the Chicago Cubs again. That season, a federal indictment linked stars Barry Bonds and Jason Giambi to steroids. Now the government wanted to get involved. Senator John McCain threatens MLB and tells them if they don't do anything to stop steroids, he will introduce a bill that mandates steroid testing.
The use of performance-enhancing drugs like steroids in baseball, football, and other sports is dangerous, and it sends the wrong message that there are shortcuts to accomplishment and that performance is more important than character. So tonight I call on team owners, union representatives, coaches, and players to take the lead, to send the right signal, to get tough, and to get rid of steroids now.
The walls were quickly closing in on MLB, but in the meantime, they were having one of the most successful postseasons of all time.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, please tell me you're going to stay awake tonight to watch the biggest game on the planet.
The Boston Red Sox, who hadn't won a World Series since trading Babe Ruth, were now facing their bitter arch rivals to break that curse. The year before, Pedro Martinez targeted the Yankees. This caused a response and a brawl that ended with him tossing a charging Don Zimmer to the ground.
Oh my goodness. Don Zimmer and Pedro Martinez.
That's all. They got crushed and eliminated with a walk-off homer.
Ball deep to left. It's on its way. There it goes. And the Yankees are going to the World Series.
The The tension continued. In 2004, Alex Rodriguez was nailed by a pitch, screamed at Bronson Arroyo, then fought Jason Varitek, causing a full-out brawl.
At it. Now another fight off to the side. It's going to take forever to get this thing straightened out.
3 months later, down 3-0 in the ALCS, the Red Sox look doomed. No team has ever come back from a 0-3 deficit. But 2 dramatic wins in a row give them a shot. In Game 6, it's Curt Schilling's turn to pitch. He is 37 years old, yet he finishes second in Cy Young voting for the 3rd time in 4 years. He leads MLB in wins. He tried to pitch in Game 1 and got destroyed.
Not feeling comfortable or something is wrong.
He's in trouble.
He has a debilitating ankle injury. He's supposed to be out for the playoffs. But all of a sudden, with a chance to win, Schilling was the only Red Sox pitcher who was rested. The Red Sox doctors come up with a plan for an emergency surgery that would sew Schilling's leg tissue to the tendons in his ankle, a surgery that had never been performed on a human in history. This surgery is conducted the night before he is set to pitch. To this day, medical literature describes this surgery as a chilling tendon procedure because he was the only person to ever get it. The doctors did this surgery on a trainer's table in the clubhouse and have no idea if it's going to work. In Yankee Stadium, in front of 50,000 fans, he somehow pitches 7 innings, gives up just 1 run as the broadcast continuously shows close-ups of his ankle, which is bleeding through his sock.
Without a doubt, the gutsiest performance I have ever seen. I got 5 words for you, Tony. You could not make this up. I mean, this is unbelievable.
The Red Sox win this game, and they would win the next game. They then won their next 4 games, winning their first World Series in 86 years.
The Boston Red Sox are world champions.
The ALCS Game 7 was watched by 31 million people. At the time, the series doubled the NFL's viewership. Game 5 was voted Sports Match of the Year at the ESPYs. Curt Schilling won Best Championship Performance of the Year at the ESPYs, and the Red Sox won Team of the Year at the ESPYs. MLB set an attendance record in 2004, 5 million more fans than the year before, and 3 million more fans than the year of the historic 1998 home run chase. The league set a revenue record in 2004. MLB's revenue is now more than 2 times higher than the year after the strike, doubling revenue in just 6 seasons. Marquee moment after marquee moment not only helped baseball regain the popularity it lost from the strike, it was now more popular and profitable than it was before the strike. But in the midst of one of MLB's most successful postseasons ever, a tragedy occurred.
Ken Caminiti died of a heart attack Sunday in the Bronx. He was 41 years old. Caminiti admitted after his career that he used steroids while he was a player. He also fought a drug and alcohol addiction.
10 days after being released from jail, Ken Caminiti was found dead. He had tested positive for drugs 4 times since being arrested in 2001 for crack possession. And on October 10, 2004, he overdosed on a mixture of crack cocaine and heroin. Although his death likely had very little to do with steroids, Caminiti was now one of the faces of steroid abuse. More than 8 in 10 Americans now say that they are concerned that the use of steroids by well-known athletes is encouraging young people to do them. Half are very concerned. In 2005, 3.2% of high school males had used steroids before, an all-time high, according to the Justice Department. Lawmakers wanted to stop this. 2 days after the Red Sox beat the Yankees, the 2004 Steroid Control Act is passed. It harshens penalties for steroid crimes and makes Andro, the drug made famous by Mark McGwire, illegal. And a month and a half after the World Series, John McCain warns MLB again. If a testing policy isn't put in place, Congress will act. And just when it seemed like the entire world had their aims on MLB and their steroid policy, Jose Canseco makes the finishing blow.
Jose Canseco, variously called the bad boy of baseball or the godfather of steroids, has written a much-talked-about book he calls Juiced.
The book Jose Canseco had threatened to release 2 years prior is released. It's a New York Times bestseller before it even touches the shelves.
You essentially strengthen your body and your performance with a cocktail of steroids and growth hormones.
Yes. Canseco not only admits his own steroid use, as promised, he exposes others, including Jason Giambi, his 3 Texas Ranger teammates, Juan Gonzalez, Ivan Rodriguez, and Rafael Palmeiro, and most notably, Mark McGwire.
Tell me about your first-hand experiences with McGwire steroids.
Just the first time injecting him in his buttocks.
And these were not allowed at that time in the league.
Absolutely not.
Across baseball, Jose Canseco becomes public enemy number one. The Washington Post writes, luckily for baseball, no one ever believed Jose Canseco's word on steroids, so they probably won't start now. The LA Times called it the worst sports book so far in 3 centuries, and Mark McGwire responds. He denies everything Canseco claims, saying, I feel bad to see someone turn to such drastic measures to accomplish a personal agenda. The relationship that these allegations portray couldn't be further from the truth. Their manager, Tony La Russa, makes a statement.
I don't think there's any doubt that it's a fabrication.
Why do you think that Canseco says that McGwire was using?
First of all, I think he's in dire straits and needs money. I think secondly, I think there's a healthy case of envy and jealousy.
By this time, Canseco had already sold much of his memorabilia. The tens of thousands of dollars he owed in taxes had been publicized. He had previously been on house arrest and had even created an offer that allowed fans to spend the day with him at his home for $2,500 a day. Canseco was being scrutinized.
1989, arrested in California for carrying a loaded semi-automatic pistol in his car. 92, charged with aggravated battery for allegedly ramming his then-wife Esther's BMW with his Porsche. 1997, November, arrested and jailed for allegedly smacking his estranged bride of 1 year. November 13th, 2001, arrested with his brother after a fight at a Miami Beach nightclub on Halloween. Attacked 2 tourists, leaving one with a broken nose and the other with 20 stitches in his lip.
Baseball was dismissing Canseco, but Congress wasn't. They wanted to know more, and even though MLB had implemented a new drug testing policy a month prior to the book's release, Congress wasn't satisfied. They wanted to know what took so long. They wanted to know if the policy was strong enough, and they wanted to make it clear to the world that steroid use was dangerous. So they called in Jose Canseco, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Rafael Palmeiro, Curt Schilling, the commissioner, Bud Selig, and the Players Union, put them under oath and grilled them on steroid use in baseball. And it soon became clear to the world that Jose Canseco was not lying.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you and the ranking member for calling this important hearing. So let me start off, and I know this is a hard one. Are we talking about 1% of players, to your judgment, doing it? Are we talking about 5%, 10%? Is Mr. Canseco the only player in the world to have done this?
Curt Schilling was called in due to his continuous outspokenness on steroids. He was never suspected, never tested positive, and never connected to steroids. He tells Congress he's here to eradicate steroids in baseball, but he is adamant Jose Canseco isn't to be trusted.
Mr. Schilling?
No, I don't think he is the only player. I think he's a liar. I think that what he did was grossly overstate a situation to make himself not look as bad.
Sammy Sosa denied ever doing steroids.
I have never taken illegal performance-enhancing drugs. I have never injected myself or had anyone inject me with anything.
Sosa was traded to the Orioles that offseason and wouldn't be invited back to Wrigley Field for another 20 years. Rafael Palmeiro makes the most vehement denial of steroids.
I have never used steroids, period. I do not know how to say it any more clearly than that. Never. The reference to me in Mr. Canseco's book is absolutely false.
6 weeks later, Palmeiro tests positive for steroids. During his appeal, Palmeiro continues to play. Nobody knows that he tests positive except for him. During this time, he becomes only the 26th player in history to get his 3,000th hit. The game stops, and he is congratulated. But knowing the entire world was about to find out about his positive test, he looks visibly shaken. 2 weeks later, the news breaks. He is booed so loudly, he plays his final game with earplugs. The Orioles send him down in September, then saying he has become a distraction to the team, say he will not be returning. Palmeiro never plays another MLB game again. After retirement, Mark McGwire made a 12-month media vow of silence, refusing to talk to any reporter during that span. 4 years later, multiple people close to McGwire still haven't spoken to him since retirement. In front of Congress, he is visibly shaken.
I've never been a person who spread rumors
or said things about teammates that could hurt them. I do not sit in judgment of other players, whether it deals with their sexual preference, their marital problems, or other personal habits. Nor do I intend to dignify Mr. Canseco's book. It should be enough that you consider the source of the statements in the book, and that many inconsistencies and contradictions have already been raised.
Throughout the hearing, McGwire repeats the same response.
How did you get to that point where that was what you were using to prepare yourself to play?
Well, sir, I'm not here to talk about the past.
Were you ever counseled that precursors or designer steroids might have the same impact?
I'm not here to talk about the past.
What other supplements did you use?
I'm not here to talk about the past. Like I've said earlier, I'm not going to go into the past and talk about my past. I'm not going to get into the past.
Okay, I'm not really asking about the past.
Now, Mr. McGwire, would you like to comment on that?
I'm not here to discuss the past. I'm here to be positive about this. I'm not here to discuss that.
You're not here to discuss the past, and you're out of baseball now, Mr. Sosa.
I'm not here to discuss the past. I'm here to be positive about this subject. My message is that steroids is bad.
How do you know they're bad?
Pardon me?
McGwire doesn't admit to steroid use and never tests positive. However, 6 months later, when he makes his first public appearance since speaking in front of Congress, there's questions on whether or not fans in St. Louis will even cheer him.
We have a positive, great season, a great 4-year history.
McGwire gets a loud standing ovation, but after the game, more questions are asked.
When you were there, you said that when you were there, you said you would welcome the opportunity to be a spokesperson against steroids. Why haven't you filled that bell?
What I did there, is my statement, and that's it. And that's the last time I'm going to talk about it.
8 months after appearing in front of Congress, MLB institutes a new drug testing policy. A first offense results in a 50-game suspension. A second, a 100-game suspension. A third results in a lifetime ban. Bud Selig describes it as the toughest policy in sports. Through a long, grueling process, MLB's first wave of steroid offenders have been celebrated, then caught, then shamed. And now, with this new policy in place, another wave of offenders were set to go through the exact same process.
Did your former trainer, Brian McNamee, ever inject you with anything?
For the record, have you ever used steroids, human growth hormone, or any other performance-enhancing substance?
And all you guys lied. All of y'all. All of you lied. All of you have said something wrong. All of you have dirt. All of you. When your closet's clean, then come clean somebody else's. But clean yours first.